Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, July 7th, 2025, regular meeting of the Village Council of the Village of Yellow Springs. Judy, if you could call the roll.
Yes, Stokes.
I'm here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Brown. Here. Hausch.
Here.
Excellent. Gustafson.
Here.
Also present is Planning and Economic Development Director Meg Leatherman, Project Lead Elise Giardulo, Planning and Economic Development Coordinator Aaron Arellano, Solicitor Amy Blankenship, and Village Manager Johnny Burns.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Do we have any announcements? It looks like we do have a full house, and we do have a lot of legislation to go through. So if we have burning announcements. Yep.
We always have burning announcements, but I know Mary Ann McQueen, I saw you earlier.
Yep, she's here.
Oh. Yes.
Thank you. Tomorrow evening in rooms A and B from 7 to 9 p.m. there'll be an informational meeting on local governance. We're calling it Running for Local Office. It's important. The purpose of the meeting is to give an overview of our 3 local public bodies: the Village Council, Miami Township, and the Yellow Springs Exempted School District, and the roles of the elected officials who serve in these civic bodies. Even though we got a late start on this program, we felt it was important to move ahead because of the July 6th deadline for registering to run for local office.
You mean August?
Pardon?
August, right?
August. What did I say?
I hope, because otherwise
Well,
I'm not.
I mean, whatever I said, whatever came out of my mouth, I meant August. The program will be a moderated discussion, and Ellis Jacobs will discuss why local government is so important in these particular times. Mayor Canine will provide an overview of the function and structure of the 3 local government bodies, and the council member Carmen Brown, school board chair Rebecca Potter, and township trustee Chris Mucher will discuss their roles and experience as elected officials and why they chose to run and serve in an elected office. And there will be a Q&A following their presentations. We encourage anyone who might consider running for office or who would like to just understand more about how local government works to attend. You could think of this as Local Government 101. It's not time to discuss past or present particular policies or issues. We want this to be a safe place where people can get more information about our local democratic bodies and how they function and how they can be involved. The event is part of a pilot project sponsored by the Yellow Springs Community Foundation. Over the past several years, the foundation has had an increased focus on civic engagement and social justice, and this project is part of that effort. It will be videotaped, and we hope the tape will be available on Channel 5 and to stream it locally on social media, and light refreshments will be served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Any other announcements?
So otherwise, I just have a bunch of thanks. So thanks for Juneteenth. What an amazing program. Thanks for the Village Council session on growth. I thought it was really great. And as a side note, sign up for YS Connect, and then that way maybe we won't continue to have the signs downtown. Great senior center annual meeting, and I am so excited. Like, if you guys have not seen, the just what's going to happen, it is amazing. Thanks for the 4th of July, so nice. And what was the last thing here? Oh yeah, that I'm happy about Short Street. I would like folks to have some patience and some grace and realize, like, this is a really cool effort. And so those are my announcements.
All right, anyone else on the council have announcements that we want to share? All right, hearing none, thank you for all that information, Brian, and thank you again, Mary Ann, for the information you shared. All right, we're now to the consent agenda. We have a couple of items on the consent agenda. We have, first of all, the minutes of the June 16th, 2025 regular meeting. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, those minutes are approved. Then we also have the minutes of the June 23rd, 2025 special meeting, the work session on village growth. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
All right, and one abstention. Thank you very much. All right, now we're down to the review of the agenda. This is where we take a look at the items on the published agenda, consider adding or removing items as necessary from the agenda. Do we have anything of note regarding the review of the agenda?
There's a resolution that I'm hoping we can add to the agenda. So,
Yes, I did pass that past Kevin and Gavin. It is in front of you at your table, somewhere in that pile of paper. And so it should be good on that one.
Okay. Yep, and it's on the online agenda down there at the bottom. So, okay, so is everyone okay with us considering the resolution that's printed before us? We are going to add it if no one has a complaint. All right, so it is added to the end of public hearings and legislation. All right, so once again, I'm going to have a bit of a diminished role in today's meeting, so I'm going to do the petitions and communications. We have several letters, most of which are regarding the Windsor Union project. So I will try to group those folks. A few of them either are opposed or have suggestions or additional requests for modifying the current plans. And so I'll read those. First of all, we have Timothy Barton, Jean Barton, Tom Degenhart, Desiree Nickel, Jerry Papania, Ellis Jacobs, just skipping down. Okay. John Herbold in opposition, Maura Laughlin in opposition, Aaron Rogers, and Jerry Papania again. Those that are in support, Thomas Keller, and if I say your name saying you're in support, please forgive me. I didn't highlight these, so I'm just reading them from the list. Jim McCarthy, just adding information regarding the project. Lisa Abel in support for the Windsor Union project. Shelby Chestnut in support of the Windsor Union project. Steve Kahn in support of the Windsor Union project. Okay, and I think that's what we have there regarding the Union project. Excuse me. We also have, excuse me, a letter, a proposed budget calendar for 2025 from the finance director. Excuse me. A letter that I submitted. It was a joint effort that Village Council and the school district did, where we sent letters to statewide representatives regarding House Bill 335, and that was a successful effort. And I do believe that's all we have, and if I did miss anyone, I do ask that you forgive me. As we go into public hearings and legislation, most of the legislation is on topics that I'm recused from. I still get letters from folks, residents in the village, asking me why I recuse from one thing or another. So to be clear, how ethics law, it is not illegal to have a conflict of interest. But if I, as an elected official, when I have a conflict of interest, do not recuse myself from those discussions, that would be a violation. So I am an employee of Antioch College and also serve on village council, and most of the legislation that you'll be hearing tonight is with respect to properties that are involved with Antioch College. So I will be recusing, and just to be clear, recusing, from my perspective, is not just not voting on an issue. It is not using my position to influence or encourage or discourage or otherwise discuss publicly. So I will be stepping away from the dais, and our Vice President, Gavin, is going to carry most of the meeting. So I wish you all the best, and we will see you soon. Well, maybe not soon. See you later.
Kevin, grab some more chairs.
Duly noted.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. And then, just so, for anybody who doesn't know, this isn't what I normally do, so just bear with me a little bit. We'll do our best to go through all the process as best we can, and I know that y'all will keep me on track. So I think the first step is, Judy, if you could read the second reading for
And
ordinance
Gavin, if-
2025-10.
If you want to go ahead and take a motion to read the second readings in by title only.
Oh, that. See, we've already shown what I don't know. If we could get a motion to do the title-only thing, that would be great.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
can just-
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay. And now, by title only, could you read the ordinance 2025-10?
This is rezoning one parcel totaling 2.169 acres of property located at 275 East North College Street to planned unit development and amending the zoning map accordingly.
Okay, thank you. And I guess,
Get a motion?
oh, sorry, could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Now,
All
Meg,
right.
you're up, right?
Yes, Meg Leatherman, Planning and Economic Development Director. On behalf of the village, this is a second reading for ordinances 2025-10 and 11, as just stated. The first reading was held by council on June 16th, and at that first meeting, council asked for additional information from the applicant and staff. From the applicant specific to accessibility, how affordable units will be implemented, and components related to the traffic study. The portion related to staff was a housing production review update, which reflects all new residential construction added to the village since 2018 and broken out into categories created through the Bowen study. This information has all been provided in a staff memo that was included as part of the packet and has been made available to the council and to the public via our website last week. Per Village Code, on June 10th, 2025, the Planning Commission recommended approval of a request to rezone property located at 275 East College Street from E1 to PUD. They then recommended approval of a preliminary development plan for the same property, and both passed 5-0 with a 5-0 vote. A staff packet also includes the Planning Commission's recommendation, all of the material provided to them, and conditions of approval, and also the modifications that the Planning Commission made in their rendering their decision. All have been provided to council and to the public. Council's responsibility is clearly outlined in the code for this type of application. Code section 1254.05C5 states that the village council should review the preliminary development plan, the record of the Planning Commission proceedings, the standards are 1254.06, and the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and shall approve, disapprove, or approve with modifications to the preliminary development plan and request for rezoning. So all of the Planning Commission's proceedings, documentation, like I mentioned before, have been provided to you, and it's up to the council to decide if they want to approve, disapprove Planning Commission's decision, or approve it with modifications. I'm just going to give a high-level overview, and then the applicant is here as well that can add to my overview. So the applicant proposes abating and demolishing the old Antioch Student Union Building, which is located on this property, and to construct multifamily housing within 2 structures for a total of 96 units. The PUD section of our code allows for deviations from certain dimensional standards, and in addition, allows for deviations to density or an increase in density, as long as the applicant commits to providing certain amenities that are also clearly outlined in the code that they can choose from. The applicant has committed to certain amenities and therefore requested modifications that were approved by Planning Commission. To highlight, the Planning Commission recommendation included 110 off-street parking spaces. And to be clear, that is completely off-street on the parking. That 110 does not include any on-street parallel parking or anything. It's 110 off-street on the private property. Also approved is a density of, or by the Planning Commission, recommended approval, sorry, a density of 44.26 dwelling units an acre, which equates to the 96 units because they have 2.169 acres. There were also modifications approved for height and rear yard setback. The Planning Commission's recommendation of approval aligns with the intent of the Village Code as well as the comprehensive plan, which emphasizes the preservation of land outside of the village boundary through conservation easements. TLT, or Tecumseh Land Trust, typically holds most of those easements around the village. But the comprehensive plan and Village Code encourage that preservation as well as simultaneously encouraging redevelopment within inside the village limits, what's commonly referred to as infill development. So the proposal and recommendation is in line with the Commission's approved plans. Should the council vote to accept the Planning Commission's recommendations, I wanted to highlight a few steps that that Windsor would need to complete before they could start construction. So this is a series of public hearings and meetings. There is a history of prior work sessions and Planning Commission meetings that we've had as well. So the next steps, should council vote to approve, would be for Windsor to prepare a final development plan application that would be submitted and reviewed by the village. The final development plan includes a detailed site plan specific to and meeting requirements in Code Section 1248. Some of the things it highlights are including operating levels of mechanical equipment, specifics on driveway and sidewalk dimensions, parking spaces dimensions, and also landscaping. You'll notice that one of the conditions of approval included in the Planning Commission's decision was for Windsor to conduct a traffic impact study. That is the rationale for that. In addition to conducting the traffic analysis, they're supposed to incorporate any identified findings from that traffic study into the site plan that then would be reviewed by the village, and then Planning Commission is the deciding body on those documents. So the rationale was doing the rezone and then subsequently the traffic study, because they could potentially make any identified changes that the traffic study might highlight in the next submittal to us that's coming, should this get approved. After the final development plan application, they also have to prepare building plans prepared by an architect, a licensed architect that's reviewed by the village building official. We contract with NIC to conduct that review. They also do inspections once construction starts to ensure compliance with the adopted Ohio Building Code, which is adopted through the state and regulated by the local authority. In this case, we contract with NIC to do that. And then I finally wanted to highlight that the survey documents associated with this project have been reviewed and approved by Greene County Engineers Office. Greene County is the applicable source for reviewing all surveys that the village wants to later record with them. For example, Greene County reviews surveys associated with tax maps, subdivisions, and rezones, for some examples, that later become the official record. In this case, they have reviewed the legal descriptions and surveys associated with the ordinances today and approved them. So I'll go over the conditions of approval in that. I kind of touched on the traffic study, but just to read it directly, the traffic impact study shall be completed prior to final PUD approval for the general vicinity with implementation measures, if any, incorporated into the final development plan. And then number 2, at least 15% of the units shall be designated as permanently affordable for households earning 80% or less than the area median income. The 3rd, a 5-foot sidewalk shall be constructed along the property's frontage on both President and Livermore Streets. 4th, provide 48 on-site bicycle parking spaces per specifications in the Village Code 1264.02. And then 5, prior to final development plan approval, obtain village approval of a stormwater management plan in accordance with requirements of the Village Code 1226.06. And again, that stormwater management plan would be submitted and reviewed by the village prior to the final plan, which does come back to the village for review and a public hearing before they can start construction. And I think that's all I wanted to cover for this one. I'll stand for any questions.
So just so I've got this right, we would first ask any questions that we have for you, and then we would open the public hearing, or do we typically open the public hearing? Does it, or can it go either way?
It can go either way.
And Gavin, if I could jump in here.
Yeah.
So we have each of these projects, Union and Kettering, broken out into 2 ordinances, because council's being asked tonight to rezone both of them to PUD, and then also being asked to consider a preliminary development plan for each project. So the rezoning ordinance has been read first. That's the one that's on the table. Most of what was in Meg's staff report is going to be directly relevant to council's consideration of the PUD plan. So we need to deal with the fact that we have the rezoning ordinance on the table first and not the preliminary plan. So a couple of different ways you could do it. You could table this ordinance and shift to the next ordinance, bring that up for public hearing. Because if you take if you open the public hearing now and take comment relevant to the rezoning, I think really what you're going to be getting is the comment relevant to the preliminary plan. So we need to figure out whether you want to just table that and move on to 2025, what's the next one?
11.
Open 2025-11 and consider that first prior to hearing the rezoning. Because the way our code works is that if the PUD zoning is approved, then the zoning map can be changed to PUD. If the preliminary plan is approved, then the applicant can move forward, working with the zoning administrator on the final plan.
Okay. I'd be interested in anybody's input, but I guess I don't think heard any questions or concerns related to the rezoning component. So I guess there's a part of me that thinks let's just do that one first, and then if there's not a question about the rezoning, then we move on to what seems like the substance of the matter. Is
there a way to do it simultaneously, Amy, or no? It has to be an open.
The preliminary plan should be its own hearing. So it might just be beneficial to table 2025-10, read 2025-11. I can see Judy's wheels turning from here. And then if you're ready to go ahead and open the public hearing and start taking that comment.
I tend to agree with solicitor.
that's fine. Yeah, I don't feel strong.
Can I just shoot you a question? Because I think there are some folks who objected to the rezoning on the basis that certain criteria were met, and if the rezoning did not occur, there's no way that one could approve the preliminary plan because you've got to have a PUD to do that. So if you can address where do those people then make their comment, and yes.
You say that again.
Again? Oh, God. Okay.
I think she's basically saying, if we do the tabling, then can all the comments related to this happen, and then we'll do the rezone afterwards, or we have to do the rezone?
So you think there's people that want to speak directly to the rezone?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yes, because without the rezone, you can't do the preliminary plan.
Sure. So then if you want to go ahead and navigate that, we absolutely can, since this is the one
She is punted.
that's on the table.
We're going to get to all of
let's
it, I think,
navigate it.
is the basic bottom line. So
Yes, and so any concerns people have about the plan itself
Okay.
would be for the next ordinance.
Okay, so let's table this one, and that way we can talk about everything, and then we'll come back to it, okay? That's okay with everybody? So then, why don't we do the reading of that one? So, okay, I'll make a motion to table, that, we have to do that, right?
Yep.
Motion to table 2025-10, and then come right back to it.
Second.
Was that
That was
Trish?
Trish with a second.
Okay, well, you made a motion.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, so then, is it okay to have you read the 2025-11 then?
Yes, indeed. This is approving the preliminary development plan for a PUD located at 275 East North College Street.
So I guess, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Did that cover that one too?
Right, I don't have,
Okay.
I didn't separate them out.
Okay, so now I'm back to my question of, are y'all okay with asking a few clarifying questions with Meg first and then doing public hearing? Is that okay? Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Meg at the beginning?
I don't right now.
I'm going to wait, yeah.
Okay. I just had a couple, I think,
Okay.
pretty simple things. So the affordability thing, I know you reference it in the memo, is like the 15% at 80%. There's not like a how to, I didn't miss something about like how that would be held accountable or something, or how we would follow up on that, right?
I think that the applicant provided in the memo an explanation of how that would work. And that's
Okay.
in my memo. I copied and pasted their responses.
Okay, maybe between, if you wouldn't mind directing me, I was just doing a search trying to find it, but I didn't see that.
Should be the very first page of where it says to council from Megan.
Okay, I'll try to find it.
Okay.
Okay, and then just one other question on so in terms of the conditions for approval, when we say traffic impact study, does traffic include parking, or is the assumption that those are somehow different things?
Yeah, so I reiterated what the planning commission's conditions of approval were specifically, because I
Yeah.
don't want to throw something in the middle so that we all have a baseline of where we're starting. And I passed along the council's questions about can it include parking and can it include some of the off-site connectivity. They responded with, yes, that is their intent.
Okay.
So if we need to flush out that condition to be a little bit more broad or specific, that's potentially an option, but it also might be good to hear from the applicant, and I need to find that
Okay.
memo for
Yeah,
you so you
cool.
can see it.
Okay, I think those are my two little
Okay.
questions.
Well, and so I'll just add, I'd like the condition just to say 15 units instead of 15%, I
For that one.
mean, you guys agree to that? And then, yeah, again, I'm happy to hear that we're talking about traffic, parking, bike ped study. And so, yeah, clarifying or being specific about that would be great. Okay.
Okay,
right.
so now we would open the public hearing, and so I
And is
think,
that when we hear from the applicant too?
oh, sorry, when is that?
Let's,
appropriate?
I would go ahead and, yeah, because some questions may be addressed in that
Okay,
presentation.
okay, great. Okay, thanks, Meg, and then I guess, go ahead, Amy. Yeah?
You can go ahead now and swear everyone in that's going to address council.
Okay, yeah, so, because this is an administrative hearing, if you're planning to speak, or I'm just going to read it. All those wishing to speak tonight, please stand and raise your right hand. Please respond in the affirmative. So this is like the official swearing in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in matters before this board?
I do.
Great. Okay, that's it. And then just when you come up, if you can just say, I was sworn in, that would be great. And if you don't, then I'll ask you. So that's just fair warning. Okay, so, yeah, go
Eric
ahead.
Alfieri, the Windsor Companies, and I was sworn in. Well, first, appreciate all of you taking the time following the holiday weekend. I know we've had a number of these discussions, and I'm sure you've been following them, but I know there's been a lot of time spent on the part of the staff. All of you appreciate the consideration and for meeting this evening. If we could turn to slide 3, please, I'll start there. And we can keep this as interactive as you guys would like to. Feel free to interrupt me with questions or save them to the end. We have plenty of our teammates here today to speak to anything that comes up. A lot of you have heard this, but I wanted to share a little bit of a reintroduction for those who have heard it, or a formal introduction for those who haven't, but just about Windsor. We have a deep history in Ohio. This is our home state. We're a local developer, and bring that experience to bear in every market or every sub-market in which we invest. So we've completed thousands of multifamily units, both new build and adaptive reuse projects across the state, and this is our focus. In terms of our core values, meritocracy, pride, passion, and vision, we focus on integrating with every community in which we invest, and we're not the type of developer that stamps out cookie cutter developments everywhere. I think some of the Planning Commission was able to visit us in Dayton. They got to see the pride with which we approach every single project we pursue, and we aim to bring that vision here to Yellow Springs, which we all know faces many of the same challenges that the state faces as it pertains to housing. And I mentioned community is one of our top focuses. We've been getting to know the village for over a year now. We've thought holistically about needs. We've looked at the vision documents guiding housing need, guiding a desire for infill development, and that informed how we looked for opportunities, and it informed how we planned. On the next page, you'll see we're a vertically integrated developer. We do construction in-house. We manage our own properties, so I think that's germane to some of the questions of affordability. I may as well address that now. Our property management group has decades-long history managing different forms of affordable housing, voucher-based, Section 8, et cetera. It should be in the packet, but again, we'd be open to discussing what the proper vetting process would be. Typically, what we suggested is we'd be able to furnish a rent roll that would confirm that we're running prospective tenants for those 15 affordable units specific to the student union site through a process to verify via pay stubs, W-2s, et cetera, that they actually meet the criteria that we set forth as part of that affordability requirement. So you call up our property management group, you ask for that rent roll, and we'll get you all the backup information you need to make sure we're continuing to abide by that commitment. And that's one we take very seriously, and we operate across much of our portfolio today. So hopefully that clarifies some of the ongoing maintenance of that commitment that we're making to the village. If you go to the next slide, or actually the one after that, we're breaking this up into two presentations here. So you'll see we highlighted the student union site. But before I get into the specifics, if you turn to the next slide, I suppose it makes sense to address why we're here, or why Windsor thought that this was a place we wanted to spend our time, besides the fact that we really just fell in love with the village. First, we all know that there's been limited development and very little rental housing supply. Second, we think because of our vertical integration, because of the talented designers we have on our team, we're uniquely able to create housing that's in line with the village's strategic plan, as well as is aesthetically in line with many of the special landmarks within the village. Third, promoting wellness and quality living. This is something we pursue at every one of our developments, integrating walking paths, bike paths, parking for those bikes, spending time with the wellness center that really is world-class, et cetera. And as well as finally providing a variety of solutions. So from studios to 2 bedrooms, buildings with elevators, buildings that are walk-ups, basically trying to create a holistic package of rental housing that is relevant for young professionals to seniors to younger families, et cetera. So I think we'll demonstrate that this evening. If you could turn to slide 11. I'll speak a little bit to, we have a conceptual plan here. But Student Union is a new build. It will be built featuring energy-efficient designs and amenities that promote wellness and community engagement. The green space, you see highly efficient HVAC equipment, highly efficient window systems that limit any environment or environmental impact. We also have included parking, 110 units on site, a further 18 diagonally off-site for a total parking ratio of 1.33 spots per unit, which includes the diagonal parking, which is in line with some of the comps that you saw in the staff recommendation packet in terms of new developments in the area. And then on the next several slides, you'll see renderings that follow that initial site plan. I think I'll pause there. There had been a handful of questions that came up about accessibility that I think are probably important to address. And we've invited our architect of record, Dan Mayer, who maybe can spend a minute or two speaking to those a little bit more specifically, because I think it's worth bringing that up at this point, and then happy to address any other questions you have.
Daniel Mayer, Development Architecture Collaborative. I have been sworn in. I've had the privilege of working with Windsor Company the last few years as primarily one of their architects of records on multiple multifamily projects. Additionally, our firm has not only a certified accessibility consultant and review professional, which is one of my business partners, Andrew Johnson, with the state of Ohio, but additionally, we've done work for over 25 plus years between us throughout the state of Ohio as well as multiple other states. I can say that for a couple things in clarity is one is, the Ohio Building Code regulates two items that come up a lot, I think, in conversations. One of those is accessibility. One of those is energy performance. Both of those are regulated within the Ohio Building Code, which is a life safety code. So it's not a minimum code. It's not a code meant to be a minimum standard. It's actually about life safety. It replaced life safety codes that were around prevalent in the 80s and 90s, as well as through the Uniform Building Code. So they decided to take that and package that into a bigger holistic approach and adding in things like energy compliance as well as accessibility. The state of Ohio is regulated by ANSI A117.1, which is actually far beyond the requirements of the ADA design guidelines. So the state of Ohio naturally requires a more exceptional approach to accessibility, which is in line with the Fair Housing Act design criteria that comes up quite often as well. That deals with everything from thresholds to access to countertops. As part of that, you're required to develop two types of units, Type A and Type B units. Type A units have roll-in showers. They're fully accessible. Code requires that 2% of the units be Type A units. Currently, 4 of our 96 units are designed to be Type A units in this type of building. So we're actually exceeding what is the requirement in terms of those Type A units. Type B units are convertible to be Type A units if a demand is increased or a bigger need is needed to be addressed. So they're prepared, they have blocking in the walls, and they're able to be adapted quickly and be able to deal with those things. The second part is really about energy performance. I've heard a lot about noise criteria and sound criteria in some of these meetings. I want to be able to address that. As part of the submission to the jurisdiction, which again we submit to the village, which then goes to National Inspections, who does the actual review in coordination with our team on the requirements and making sure we're meeting what's needed to be in the state of Ohio. We're required to submit what's called a comm check. That comm check does everything from water tightness of windows, it deals with sound performance, and make sure that the building has a level of sustainability that meets the requirements within the state of Ohio under the ASHRAE standards, which is a whole separate governing body that the state of Ohio says you have to meet in criteria. Those are required no matter what. There's no way out of those. That's the standard in Ohio, which is far and higher than most states. So states have different requirements. The state may only adopt the ADA requirements, but Ohio said, no, we're going to do ANSI A117, and we're going to exceed those requirements and take it steps further. And so our job and our task is, again, what you're looking at is very preliminary based, But our job is to work with those jurisdictions, the NIC in particular, through the Village of Yellow Springs, to make sure we address any and all of those criteria to make sure we are meeting those criteria, which are required for us to get a permit in order to build the building. So hopefully maybe that adds, again, context and clarity to some of those questions. And again, I can be here to address more comments as it sees fit.
I have a couple questions.
Sure, yeah.
So there's a couple of things that were mentioned: community's top focus, quality living, and the holistic package for seniors, young people, and families, right? We want to point out people with disabilities as well. And we're all disabled twice in our life, when we're born and when we die. We have an aging population just like everybody else. And I know what the state of Ohio does. I still view that as just a minor step above bare minimum for the ADA. That's just my personal feelings. And from where all of you sit, you probably don't see that. But for the individuals that are dealing with disabilities and the people that support them, it's very impactful. So couple of questions. So for the type B, are all those going to be on the ground floor?
Type B units have to be all the units. So
Okay.
what is in type A is required by state of Ohio to be type B, which means they are convertible to be
So
additional.
they could be on the second floor and we have no elevators?
They could be, and that could be for people that have hearing or sensory challenges, not just wheelchair-based.
Okay,
Okay, does that kind of clarify that?
that does.
Yeah.
And so would you consider adding, because, 4 units, I personally don't think that that's enough. Hearing from people in the community and those that have expressed interest in living in these apartments, 4 doesn't seem to be enough, so that are wheelchair accessible specifically. So would you consider going beyond the 4 units for those base units?
Well, theoretically, any of the ground units, so I believe these are 48 unit per total, so that'd be, is that 16 per floor?
Right, but they
They could be convertible
can
into
be.
type A units.
Right, but would you consider going ahead and making a
I
portion
can't
of
answer
those?
that question. I follow the code, but I'm sure that Eric could answer that after you're done. That's not my decision.
Okay.
I just follow the code requirements and what I
Right.
need to do. But
Right.
if they instruct me to do more, but like I said, those type B units are ready to be convertible, meaning that, again, the blocking is put in the walls, the water systems, everything has been set up to be able to be converted to those units.
Right, but it takes time, it's considerable time to make something accessible. So that's why I'm just wondering if we could expand beyond the 4 units.
Yeah, I'll let Eric speak to that. I don't think I can specifically say that. That's a commitment I can't make in my
Right,
position.
that's fair.
I guess, are there other questions for the architect while he's here? And then, did you have other remarks?
I can comment on that
Okay.
after, if there's nothing else, and then
Yeah.
maybe one other point.
Okay.
Don't have anything?
Okay. Guess, thank you. I guess, do you want to go ahead and
Sure.
finish up?
Well, I think the other point to consider, is the Kettering building has the elevator, and those are intended to be fully accessible units as well. So, again, I know we're not talking about Kettering right now, but as a holistic package, that's a wide hallway building, fully equipped with an elevator. So that's part of the way we think about accessibility as well, as across, those two properties, there will be plenty of affordable units.
Well, accessible,
Yes.
yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, it's just, being on a second floor in a wheelchair, it's just safer to be on a ground floor. So that's why I was asking.
Understood. Well, it's certainly something we can discuss, and are open to, again, having that conversation as we get to the next phase of our final plans.
Okay, thanks.
Pertaining to the traffic study and parking, it came up, I figured it's worth addressing, giving a little bit more detail to. Our traffic study will include a parking component as well as considerations for bike and pedestrian walkways. We typically work with a group called Carpenter Marty Transportation. I think there might have been some confusion too. We work with a third-party licensed consultant. It's not something that's done in-house. We got some questions of, is that something you prepare and submit? No, that's someone we hire to perform that study in compliance with village standard and county standard.
Well, since you brought it up, that is, a concern that's been raised is it going to be, objective and whatnot? So I don't know if you want to say something about that, but there
Well,
are concerns about.
I hope I did. If I wasn't clear, we'd hire a third party. You guys, if you want to speak to them, obviously they'll file a fulsome report, again, in compliance with village standard and county standard. And certainly, if it would be helpful to have them come present to you all when we next meet, that can be arranged. There's a variety.
It would be helpful.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Could you say the
Yeah.
name again? Could you say the name of the company?
Carpenter Marty Transportation. Again, they're just one of several in the state.
Chair, the board letter, if I may.
Can you hear me? Sorry, it just sounds so official. Okay, yes, you may.
If Eric could elaborate on the implementation of the affordability, that would be helpful. I noticed that the actual memo that I prepared with their responses, I don't think got to council. So I think if you could, basically, everything else he's addressed that was in their responses, if you could just touch on that, I think it would all be covered.
Can I interject really quickly? I thought that he did touch on the affordability aspect. Are you asking for additional details besides what he already offered?
Well, yeah, because they actually provided me an email that had quite a lengthy discussion about how the affordability component would be monitored and administered by Windsor. And I thought it might be helpful if he could explain that, because the memo was intended to include that information
So
to
we're asking
council.
for him to expound on what he's already.
But I don't think it actually got to council, is the problem.
Did we just not hear a discussion about affordability?
I think if I understand correctly, I think you're saying that the information that you did, you provided some information about the rent rolls and that information. I think you're saying there's more detailed information that was provided that just didn't make it in our packets, but
Correct.
that is available. So I guess the ultimate bottom line for me is just, and I said this at the last meeting, is just that by the time, if this goes forward, that we get done, that there's here's how to know if it's happening, and then we can check in. And so I don't personally feel the need to go through it line by line right now. I know we have more steps in the process, and if it's been submitted, great. It was referenced as though we'd seen it. I just hadn't seen it, so I was just wondering. But the basic idea makes sense. Are y'all okay with that, or do you feel like you have more questions about the affordability component?
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with the information that was already offered.
So yeah, we'll just send it along after, and we can, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can include, obviously, any further detail in the next submission, too.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Are you open to some questions now, or are you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there other questions for other things that we haven't addressed yet?
Not right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I think we're good for right now, and then we'll open the public hearing, and then obviously we may ask folks to come back up or respond to things afterwards.
here.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to open the public hearing. So in general, 3 minutes a person. If you can, what's that? Sign-in sheet. Oh. Pass it along.
Well, no, you can call people from the sign-in sheet if you want to do it that way. You can check people off in that manner.
But we were told that we did not have to sign in tonight.
You will all be able to speak, but, we will start with the list, so, yeah.
So this public hearing is about the development at the student union. There'll be a following set of public.
Concerns.
Sorry?
There'll also be citizen concerns.
Yeah,
right?
there'll be another set of public hearings related to the Kettering project after this public hearing. And then there's also citizen concerns if you want to talk about something that isn't on the agenda.
That's what I have.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll make sure that you're recognized.
So generally, 3 minutes. We generally ask that if you can, keep your comments to things that have not already directly been said by someone else. We understand there will be a reiteration, but just to be generally thoughtful about that would be great. So when you come up, if you can just say that you've been sworn in. If not, we'll do it real quick. And then your name and your relationship to the village. So.
Name and address, actually, we need.
Oh, okay, and address. Name and address.
I didn't realize you had 2 check marks, citizen concerns or legislation. I checked citizen concerns, but I'm actually wanting to talk about the legislation, I guess, if we're talking about the development.
I think.
Am I shooting people over?
Okay.
We didn't know where to check.
Yeah, this cited sheet, it's great that we're like trying to do it again, but it's not like a big deal.
And it also doesn't have to be super complicated. So the first thing that we're addressing right now, the first thing that we're talking about right now is people who have questions or concerns or comments related to this particular legislation, right? And then we'll have the other one, and then we will have citizen concerns. If it has to do with anything else besides this legislation or the next, that's a citizen's concerns piece, regardless of where you checked on to the sign-in sheet that we're trying again.
So I'm going to just go through the sign-in sheet, and then if I mention your name and you didn't want to talk about this one, or you decide that you didn't want to talk, then just say no, and then I'll just go to the next person. And if we get through this whole list, then at the end I'll say anybody else. So if you're not on the list, you'll still have a chance to talk.
And Judy is our timekeeper, so in fairness to everyone, she will be keeping the time. Or
So
Ben.
Ben will start the little clock there, and so generally, we really appreciate it when folks stick to that time restriction. And the other disclaimer is that we don't respond to everything. If people have responses or questions after somebody speaks, it's okay, but in general, we'll wait and discuss it more at the end. So
just to be clear, I can't talk until everybody else has talked, and I can't say,
yeah, so
for example, the hardware store.
No,
That will be citizen
concerns.
concerns. Yep.
okay. All right. So thanks everybody for bearing with us here. So I'm just going to start at the top of the list. This is just the order that people signed in. And so I'll start with Pan Reich.
Thank you. I'm Pan Reich. I did make the swear thing. I live at 131 West South College Street. So, the vast majority of our villagers are definitely for more infilling, increasing housing for especially low-income folks who are trying, we have kids that graduated high school that can't live here, so we want to help those kids. But at the same time, the reason that so many people want to come to Yellow Springs and the reason that Windsor wants to build here is because people want to move here because our quality of life is high. We're a village. 96 units in one little tiny area is going to decrease the quality of life for the people living there. A lot of people will say, you're going to say, not in your own backyard. This building is 8 to 9 blocks from our house. It's not in our neighborhood, but we care about other villagers. As an example, 110 parking spaces for almost 100 units. That means probably 20 or 30 other cars are going to be parking on the street in front of other people's houses. This is going to decrease the quality of life of Yellow Spring villagers who came here to live in a village, not in suburbia, Beaver Creek, or Kettering, where there's multiple huge buildings like this. I'm for, that they listed high-quality things, and I really appreciate that they're doing at least 15 units for low-income people. But 96 is simply not reasonable for a village neighborhood. Other people have mentioned in the 60s would be so much more reasonable, and I would support that 100%. But 96 in that one little neighborhood is going to decrease their quality of life. They're going to have traffic, quadruple or more than that in that neighborhood, and it's just simply not reasonable. I urge you to support them, but to please get that number down to something more reasonable for a village. We're not suburbia. We're not Dayton. This is the village of Yellow Springs. That's why people want to move here, because of our quality of life. Don't decrease that quality of life for the rest of the people that are here. You know, we need to have more reasonable to bring, 60-some units would do a lot for our village, especially if there's a lot of low quality. I don't want to take too much more time, but please consider making it smaller. And if this organization here doesn't want to do it, they can sell it to another developer who can. And the third-party organization that they're getting to do a traffic study, well, whatever organization they hire are going to be highly motivated to have a study that supports them. So that study, I don't believe, would be neutral. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Bill Mitchell.
Right here. Thank you. Oh my, I've been standing, I've been sitting. Are we going to have a quiz about everything? Judge Judy, are we ready?
Have you sworn in?
I am sworn in, 1360 Rice Road, established 2018. Well, I'm going to poke a little bit. I'm going to be the court jester to get my points across, with all due respect. So, sorry to steal your thunder, but I'm announcing council's new order of business for Unity. It's new, it's different. The old way would have been to be led by the 2020 land use community priorities, like number 5 and 6. These priorities, we are to be led to embrace sustainable values and maintain the character of the village. They could have used a Bowen housing study from 2018, where the executive summary wanted council to do an audacious housing development, preferably at Glass Farm. After 7 years, nothing. Nada. But they did order another study that's going to cost $25,000, just to be told again, would you please do something audacious for housing? So council did something different. Not using that, they kind of came up with, they used the kingdom building approach. So what they did was they decreased the PUD from 5 acres to 2, increased housing density by 300,000. This thing is really getting compressed. There's something happening. Decreased parking allotment by almost 50%. These are established parameters that's been accepted with the citizenry. Ignored traffic volume by not requiring or interest in access to Corey Street. And distance for you, Johnny, does not quantify any future village non-budgeted obligations, putting us at risk. And I heard talk not long ago about a 75% tax abatement for 10 years.
15.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So this is what it is. And in total with the Kettering building, these proposals are increasing and could just easily result in 200 cars, 200 people in the span of 2 blocks. And also ignore creating significant creation of greenhouse emissions. So what did they come up with? They came up with a big turd on a postage stamp. That's what they came up with. So,
All right, that's time.
I thank you for your consideration. Thank you. I had more.
Thank you. The next person up is Louisa Beery.
Hello, I've sworn in. My name is Louisa Beery. I live at 270 King Street, and I was born and raised in Yellow Springs. When I was 8 years old, my family had to move out of our apartment in Yellow Springs to move out to the township where my folks could afford to raise us, their 5 children. We lived in a lower duplex for 8 years, and in that time, my parents built a house that is still the family home. When my spouse and I decided to move back in our 30s to raise our child here, I realized we couldn't afford to live here either. We rented a tiny house, and after a few years, our name came up on the Home Inc. wait list for the resale of a home. It felt like we had won the lottery. Indeed, now I understand that there is an actual lottery for the people waiting to rent an apartment through Home Inc. And last I heard, if I understand correctly, there were more than 200 people on that wait list waiting for a home. I've been hearing a lot about traffic and HVAC noise and building height concerns from a small but vocal group of neighbors, and I think we may have forgotten what this is all about. Windsor is removing a derelict, asbestos-ridden, rotting building, and they're proposing to build something new. But the real point about all of this is about being able to make a home here. I appreciate the saying, when you have more than you need, build a longer table, not a taller fence. I am hearing a lot about fences and a lot about the importance of building a bigger table, and not a lot about the importance of building a bigger table. Generosity of heart leads to kindness, connection, joy even. I certainly imagine it. Might we imagine that the joy we would have at having new neighbors? I imagine it for Antioch, where I have worked as a co-op faculty member for a decade, and I'm now the dean of co-op. The bird song won't go away with our many trees and green campus, and we will also hear people laughing and children playing, maybe a tea kettle whistling. Yellow Springs conducted a housing needs assessment in 2018, and its findings were clear. An immediate and continually growing need for all types of housing, including rental apartments, to serve not only seniors, but also millennials. Since that time, Village Council has voted down new housing initiatives, again, a trend that I've watched painfully over my lifetime, which is now nearly half a century, 50 years. So when I say we are a community that values, when we say actually, our whole community says that we value inclusion and belonging, this is what it means. Let's do the right thing, folks, and build a bigger table, not a higher fence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, if we could hold all the responses, it can have a chilling effect one way or the other, so
We're getting paid
it's...
just fine, thank you, sir. I don't appreciate the side comments. That was hurtful.
There's a reason Kevin recused himself.
I lived in this village my entire life, as I've said.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So
Disrespectful to me.
thank you for speaking. The next person that's up is, I think, Franklin Holly, I think. Yeah. Some people's handwriting is better than others.
Oh.
I'm just happy.
It's even worse. Franklin Halley, I was sworn in. I live at 985 South High Street. I want to say I believe this is a remarkable opportunity. I really like the project. I hope that you can find a way to move forward with it. I feel like we've been, ever since I've lived here for 32 years, or maybe 33, all I hear is talking about more housing, more housing. Not much seems to happen except for some small stuff. You know, I wasn't here in the 60s and early 70s when there were over 2,000 students and all the faculty that were on that campus to manage those students and work with them and staff. You know, now that area is like sort of like a dead zone. To get rid of old buildings and make it into a more viable and useful community resource, I think, is a great opportunity. So I hope you can find a way to move forward with the project. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next person, I think it's Susan Abendroth. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
You got it right.
You did it. Good job.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Susan Abendroth. I live on Rice Road. I've lived here for, oh gosh, I can't do the math, since 1961.
Okay, and were you sworn in?
I was sworn in.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have 3 points that I want to make, and I'll try to get it in the 3 minutes. The first one is the tax abatement. My understanding about investment is that the investors take the risk. And it seems to me that providing a tax abatement for 15 years, which is not usually provided to people building a house in Yellow Springs or building a duplex in Yellow Springs, that tax abatement is a gift to them to cover their risk. And it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem necessary. And I really feel like it's a little bit of a slap in the face to the taxpayers who are now struggling to pay for yet another tax increase to cover our school. So I urge you to think about that. Secondly, how many people can live here? How many more people can we have? You will have to be cognizant of the fact that there are more people who want to live in Yellow Springs than we could cram into the border of Yellow Springs and still maintain the quality of life that makes this a lovely place to live. So you're going to run into the tragedy of the commons. And if you don't know what that is, it means that everybody has a little piece of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And they eat their little piece until pretty soon the peanut butter and jelly sandwich is gone. And you have to be the stewards of the quality of life of the village as well. Thirdly, I was here in the 60s, and yes, there were 5 students living in a house across the street when we bought the cheapest house in town through an FHA loan, and each of those students was paying $100 rent a month in 1961. Think about it. That's why there were so many students living off campus. That's part of why now our rents are so affordable, because those rents never came down. They just only stayed up high. And yes, there were lots of students around, but they didn't really partake in the life of the community. They were students and partaking of the life in the community, as I saw it anyway, of Antioch College, which is what I did. So, those are my 3 points. I think you have a lot to pay attention to, because you have to be the stewards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up is Asa Leventhal.
My name is Asa Leventhal. I live at 1100 Grinnell Drive, and I have been sworn in. I'm incredibly grateful to have had the privilege to grow up in Yellow Springs. Beyond its strong sense of community, what I've always loved most is how this village instilled in me the values I carry today. Values like open-mindedness, inclusion, and a deep commitment to welcoming others. That's why it's so disappointing to see so many folks in that same community who taught me to embrace newcomers now pushing back against a proposal that would allow more families to call this village home. They claim that it's not NIMBYism, but saying that you support housing, just not this project in this community, is the textbook definition of NIMBYism. We've seen this story before. A developer comes forward with a plan, people demand tweaks and modifications, changes to dumpster locations, parking spaces, or building design. Those small changes create delays and endless procedural hurdles until the project collapses under its own weight. The developer walks away, nothing gets built, and the affordability crisis grows worse, which is what's happened in our town for decades. Many have argued that the apartment complex doesn't align with the character of Yellow Springs. But the character of a place isn't about building height or density. What has always made Yellow Springs special isn't its architecture. It's our values. It's our sense of community and our commitment to inclusion. What truly threatens the village's character is the trend toward becoming older, wealthier, and less diverse, driven by a housing shortage that keeps prices high and new families out. Talk is cheap. It's easy to hang a "no human is illegal" sign or fly a pride flag. But the real test is whether we're willing to act on those values. Let's make Yellow Springs more accessible to immigrants, LGBTQ people, working families, and others who want to share in what makes this village so remarkable. Let's practice what we preach. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Truth Garrett.
Peace, everybody. I've been sworn in. My name is Truth Garrett. I live in the village off of Kenneth Hamilton Way. I believe that's what the street's called. This town is aging alongside a sense of entitlement, as if there's an invisible measuring stick that decides who gets to live in Yellow Springs. I've heard that there was a study in 2018, I just heard, that showed we needed more housing, not just affordable housing, but housing in general. This need is not just for newcomers who want to move and live here. It is for the people who are already here. The folks who are renting rooms in other people's houses, the folks who work in our shops, in our schools, and in our restaurants every day. They are a part of this community too. They are the ones who would benefit from these new apartments and new family homes. Today I spoke to someone who said that they work in Yellow Springs, and they told me that they didn't feel their voice belonged in this conversation because they didn't live here. And with the current limits of availability and the prices, they couldn't even live here if they wanted to. I can't count on both of my hands the number of long-term residents who have told me that if they had to do this over again, they could not afford, regardless of whatever loan or assistance they use, they could not afford to live here now if they had to start over. So I ask you, what about those people who work here every day and have no place to stay? Should they continue to commute from Columbus and elsewhere and serve this village without having a chance to truly live here? Without new apartments and family homes, this village risks the chance of aging out and turning into a commuter village by day and a quiet, beautiful tourist stop on the weekends. Finally, I ask you, why is it important that we keep the numbers truly under 96? What's the true reason? Don't we need housing? Why are we holding back? Why is there a limit on the height and the infrastructure and things of that sort? Are there really engineering and architectural reasons or safety reasons, or is it just arbitrary rules to stop the growth? These are actual questions. If we as a village want to stay vibrant and welcoming, we need to make room for the people who are already here and champion the causes of a future that we claim that we value. Peace.
Thank you. And just so folks have context, that's about a third of the people who are listed here so far. So the next person up is Desiree Nickel.
My name is Desiree Nickel. I live at 131 East Davis Street, approximately 3 doors down from the proposed development at the Antioch Student Union site. I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Members of Village Council, your choice this evening is to approve, disapprove, or approve with modifications the Windsor Company's preliminary development plan and rezoning request. I am here to urge you to approve the plan and rezoning request with modifications. Here are the modifications I recommend. Sure, Patty. That the number of floors be reduced from 3 to 2, and the number of units be reduced from 96 to 64. At 64 units, the proposed apartment complex would be the largest and by far the densest apartment complex in the village, more than doubling the number of apartments available at Twin Coach and 14 apartments more than currently available at Hawthorne. Number 2, that Windsor companies be required to extend East North College Street from its endpoint on Livermore Street through Antioch campus to Corey Street, and that the entrances and exits to the parking area be required to go to that street. Modification number 3, that the standard for determining eligibility and allocating the 15 affordable housing units be established and shared with the community before final approval of the project. If there is such a letter, I haven't seen it, and I've read the entire package at least 10 times. Windsor states that 15% of their units will go to households earning 80% or below the area median income. That's great until you realize that Windsor can determine eligibility for affordable units in any number of ways. Before basing your decision on Windsor's generous offer to provide affordable units, you should know exactly what that means. So hopefully you'll get that statement. Number 4, that any agreement between the village and Windsor companies to offer Windsor a 15-year, 75% property tax abatement be publicly discussed and thoroughly examined to determine its fairness and financial impact on our public schools. And finally, number 5, that a real noise study examining the noise levels associated with the proposed outdoor heat pump units be prepared, not by Windsor companies, but by a credentialized acoustical engineer. The noise study prepared and submitted by Windsor companies is woefully inadequate. It discusses the noise impact of one heat pump when in fact there could be as many as 96 units placed on the roofs. Will 96 units make the same noise as one unit? Only a credentialed acoustical engineer can tell us that. In conclusion, as a neighbor of the proposed apartment complex on the Student Union site, I want to welcome new residents to our village. I want to get to know them, invite them to our neighborhood picnics, involve them in the Halloween bonfires on the Triangle, and help them navigate the amenities and complexities of our community. Members of Village Council, in making your decision, please consider the welfare of all stakeholders, neighbors of the project, Antioch College, corporate entities, and the village as a whole. Windsor Company needs a showplace project that they can point to with pride because it is a model of good design principles and village planning. A 2-building, 2-story apartment complex with 64 units does just that. A 3-story, 96-unit complex does the opposite and will set a terrible precedent as the village considers future developments in Yellow Springs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really quickly, Chair, can we give Ben a chance to reset the mic because there's feedback and I can hear it?
Yeah, please don't touch the mic. That sign there says.
There's a reason for it.
Oh, you took it down?
If somebody can't,
Thank you.
they're not supposed to adjust it.
I'll adjust the speakers.
So we're doing sound not just for the room, but also for the people that are watching or listening at home. And so the mics are there. We don't move our mics either. But thanks for the flag. And it's worth noting, because it did the sound got better, and you can improve it. So good. Thank you. We're on the right track. The next person up is Jane Fernandez.
Okay, hello, I'm Jane Fernandez, president of Antioch College. In the 4 years I've been a resident of Yellow Springs, I've seen the village express desire for more diversity in all its manifestations, for healthier businesses, and for additional housing of all kinds to accommodate young families, senior citizens, and others who need or want to move to the village. When Antioch began listing properties, it came from a conscious decision that holding on to unused buildings and land was irresponsible. We have always been hopeful what we sold would contribute to building and re-energizing our communities both on and off campus. From the beginning of our discussions with Windsor, they have shown an overwhelming sense of care for Yellow Springs and the project itself. They have listened to the wants and needs of the community and revised plans accordingly. In them, we have a very good partner that is in tune with the village's uniqueness and nuances, and despite setbacks, proving themselves to be a mutually respectful and beneficial partner. The apartments they propose include some that will remain affordable and others that are suitable for senior citizens and couples and small families. For those new residents, it's a foothold into a village they see as a desirable place to live, work, and raise a family. For those of us at Antioch, we look forward to being in close proximity to residents and to revitalizing the relationship between Antioch and the village. We know there are other unknowns with the project that will be addressed as it moves along. And we are willing to do our part to help make that project part of the solution to some long-term goals of the village by bringing new life and new energy to the area. I also want to mention that we're very willing to be totally in partnership with the need to allow the village to have a right-of-way on the East North College.
Yep.
So we want to work through it logically, but in no way would I ever stand in the way of this project. Just be clear about that. I'm totally in for this project. So I'm asking for the council to vote yes and to coming together to achieve this long-term goal that's very much needed. So thank you for your work and your time.
Thank you. And just a quick housekeeping, you were sworn in, correct?
Oh, I was sworn in.
Thank you.
I was, yes. Sorry.
No, thank you.
Otherwise, we're ready.
Okay, the next person on the list is, I'm not sure, I think Brian Norman?
Thanks. I'm Brian Norman. I was sworn in. I reside in Columbus and work full-time here in the village at 1 Morgan Place as an employee of Antioch College and frequent supporter of downtown businesses. I believe in a vibrant Antioch College, and I believe in a vibrant village. I believe our futures are intertwined, including the $14.5 million of economic impact that the college contributes each year to the village economy, and that's based on an independent study. So today I'm speaking in support of the Windsor proposal, which is offering a responsible infill plan. I think it's a win-win-win solution. It's offering increased housing, including for all ages and family types. It's offering an increased tax base amid a financially struggling village, and it's offering increased business amid a downtown that could really use it. And I think it helps us get to a vibrant connection between the college and the village, all while removing a dangerous and blighted eyesore. This is the proposal in front of us. And we have a willing partner who's incorporated village feedback. And so now I think we're looking for thoughtful leadership from the village. If you believe in more apartments as a housing option, we ask you to show us. If you believe in a more economically vibrant downtown, please show us. If you believe in a more diverse village, including across ages and family types, please show us. Personally, I look forward to a more vibrant connection between Antioch and the village, and so now is the time for your leadership. I say let's take the win while it's still in front of us. Thanks.
Thank you. I think this is Anita Brown, I think?
You're good.
Yeah? Okay. It helped that I had seen you before, so.
Hi, my name is Anita Brown, and I have been sworn in. Michael and I moved to Yellow Springs 35 years ago after living in Cincinnati, Vermont, and Paris, as Michael trained and worked as a chef. We were thrilled to find a place that so closely matched our values and our aspirations for ourselves and what we hoped for our children. As Michael transitioned into the wine business while also working at the Yellow Springs Bakery in the Vale, and I worked part-time for Julia Reichert, we were living very close to the poverty line. Without the opportunity and generosity from Jim and Mary Ann Neal, who offered us a reasonable rental on Cemetery Street, who knows where we would be now, and who knows, who our children would be. Without the unique and tremendous influence of great educators, elders, coaches, mentors, and beloved friends in Yellow Springs. After 5 years of renting, we purchased our home located just a little over a block from the former Antioch Student Union. We have loved and committed ourselves to Yellow Springs and have served the community in myriad ways, as others have, giving time, talent, and treasure. But we were there, stretching every penny for a yearly pool pass, going to the library a few times a day to cool ourselves off during weather like this, using creativity for what could pass as a vacation, and being gifted free bread and wine from Michael's employers. It was a humble beginning. We support the development proposed by Windsor and bringing new people to Yellow Springs, to a neighborhood that is now almost completely void of children and young people. I can see Michael and I considering a Kettering building apartment one day and to selling our home to a young family like we were. Maybe our neighbors would do it too. It has to be built first. And what would that do to the housing inventory in Yellow Springs? One thing is clear: if apartments are built on these two sites, there would be an increase in vitality felt in the neighborhood and beyond. There would be more people and more cars, but there would also be more interaction, more engagement, more heart, more soul, more art, more music, more life. Who among us can deny people who want to be Yellow Springers? We all came here for a way of life, for the diversity, for the accepting spirit. This is who we claim to be. Let's be those people. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita.
Thank you. Next up is, I think, Molly Burke.
I'd like to speak about the Kettering building.
Okay, thank you. Excellent modeling of not needing to talk. Thank you. Okay. Next up is Ellis Jacobs.
Good evening. Nice to see all of you. My name's Ellis Jacobs, 131 East Davis Street. I have been sworn. It's nice to see so many people from Antioch here today. It's really important to hear from them. It's great to see so many people out talking about this particular issue. In some way, this should be really easy for everybody because I think we all want the same thing. We all want more housing. We all want to get rid of that derelict student union. I live close to there. I have more interest in getting rid of the derelict student union, which I walk by more than probably anybody else in this room, than anybody else here. Here's the thing. It's one thing to want something. It's another thing to take a hard look at the proposal in front of you, an honest look at the proposal in front of you, and compare it to the ordinance that it has to satisfy in order to be approved. Our PUD ordinance has a lot of very specific requirements in it. This proposal doesn't meet those requirements. I hate to be the one to say that. If you take an honest look at it, it doesn't meet them. I wrote 2 long memos that are, in front of the Planning Commission for the July 10th hearing. But you don't have to read all that boring stuff. You can just look at the video of the Planning Commission when they discussed trying to approve this thing. I mean, it's a good thing we have a lot of chiropractors in town because it's hard to watch so many people bend over so far backward to do something. If you have to do that to approve that, it doesn't fit the requirements. This doesn't fit the requirements. The best thing you can do is set them on the right path, not the path where we stroke them on the head and then somewhere down the road somebody notices that it doesn't meet the requirements. So that's really all I've got to say. I want to see housing built. I really do. I've spent decades advocating for housing. I want to see housing on that site. I want to see apartments. I want to see affordable housing on that site. Not that this will be that, but I want to see all that stuff. Do them a favor. Tell them the truth. It doesn't meet the requirements of our ordinance. Do a little more work on it, guys. The reason it doesn't meet, they're trying to jam so much stuff into so little space that they can't satisfy all the other requirements. They can fix that. They've shown us that they actually have some flexibility. Now you have to take them up on it. They're big city developers. They expect you to act like folks that know how to handle big city developers, which isn't, you don't say how high, you say get it right. Thank you.
So Ellis, actually, can you quickly say what requirements are not met? Because we had, 5 planning commission members say otherwise. So could you just briefly?
Brian, can I, I actually didn't prepare to go through and to enumerate them, but they're right in your packet. I was told you guys get the Planning Commission memos.
I watched the meeting. I just what's
Well,
on
I
the
mean,
top?
they have to meet, you have to check certain boxes in order to get the density bonus. They can't check all the boxes that they got to check. You got to check certain boxes to get the other variances. They can't check all the boxes. They just can't.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Ask me why.
Okay, why? I mean, you also said, we could, ask for more clarification. I mean, Ellis was on our planning commission.
The information that Ellis is presenting now, he's presented in 2 letters that were very well written and lengthy, but the information is there already. In all honesty.
I've read those letters.
Precisely, and also, they're available for everybody else to read.
Okay.
That's why I called the point.
Yeah. I think Brian tried to ask a question. You gave you didn't have the exact information ready, but you've got 2 things you've written back, so I think we're good for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next person up is Barbara Tuss.
I'm Barbara Tuss. I rent a house at 126 Marshall Street at the back of the lot. Tom Siebold is my landlord and neighbor. I've been sworn in. I'm here because I also would like to see more housing in Yellow Springs. I am very fortunate to have a small rental house. I know how lucky I am. And I have close friends in this village that I've known for years and years. I grew up in Dayton. I lived in many places around the country in my adult life, and I moved back to Ohio in 2019. My family is still in Dayton, and I have been living here in Yellow Springs since then. My concern is that with this development, and I think it's a very appropriate parcel to be developed, is the kind of precedents that are being set with this development. And it seems like because this development has a lot of forward momentum, it seems like something that actually is going to happen, that the precedents that are being set in terms of variances, changes in ordinances, what accommodations are being made with the builders, is going to set a precedent that could continue to spiral in a way that density becomes a really big problem for the village. That and I've lived in places that I lived in Santa Monica for many years, and Santa Monica was wonderful when I lived there. And gradually over the time that I lived there, everything about it got destroyed. And it got destroyed by density and money and overcrowding. And so I've seen that happen, and I appreciate and I love the ability to live here in Yellow Springs, the quality of life here. But the number of units that have been proposed for that, and that the only concessions they've made have been when people in the village have pushed back about it. And people who have pushed back are saying, we will accept those apartments, but they need to be appropriate to the parcel, the number of units, and the other accoutrements of life that go along with that. And so I really want to urge the village council to look really closely at the precedents you are setting in whatever decisions eventually get made about this, because they're going to be repeated. People are going to come, and they're going to come for more accommodations. It's sort of like Ella said, you have to deal with these people are big builders, and we can't just be the little village that will accept whatever they put before us. We have to keep in mind, what does the village look like? And everybody who's talked eloquently about their life experience here, will that life experience still exist if the village is overcrowded, if the density of apartment buildings that are needed and wanted are such that that quality of life doesn't exist anymore? So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Relita Chambers.
Hi, my name's Rolita Hildebrand Chambers. I have been sworn in, and I live at 716 South College Street. I just want to say how supportive I am of this project, this proposed improvement on the student union site. We need all of these units. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the impact of Spring Meadows on the current inventory of housing in Yellow Springs. After Spring Meadows was built, the cost of housing of the older homes in Yellow Springs has dropped. They're staying on the market longer because there's a new alternative to building or to buying an older home and having to put a lot of money into it. I'm speaking as someone who, my family spent about 2.5 years pouring our love into an older home to rehab it so that it could continue to stand, essentially, in this village. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to disparage those who want to do that. But I am talking about supply and demand. And right now, we don't have any new nice apartments. The people who are living in apartments or renting rooms are renting in older buildings that could use a lot of rehab. And what I think is that once this big, beautiful project is built, the cost of those older apartments is going to go down. And there will be people who are able to afford coming into the village to live in the older apartments as people who could potentially afford to live in this project move here. And so I don't mind the tax abatement. I don't mind the number of units. I think we need, for so many different reasons, diversity, socioeconomic diversity. We need to have a place where people can move into the village and be in a position to walk and to bike to where they want to go. We have talked a lot about developments in the outskirts of the village. I believe this is the perfect location for this development and for the Kettering development. But I think this is the perfect location because it's central and people can get to where they need to go. So I appreciate the time very much, and I encourage this village council to please go forward with this, say yes to this development as it is currently proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Kevin Magruder.
I'm Kevin Magruder. I live at 622 Omar Circle. I'm a history professor at Antioch, and I've been in Yellow Springs for about 13 years.
And you were sworn in, Kevin?
I was.
Thank you.
Yes. One of my areas of research is community formation, and as I followed the debate regarding the Windsor Apartments proposed for the student union site, there seems to be a clash between competing visions for the village. The older part of the village, adjacent to Dayton Street and Xenia Avenue, represents an older vision, influenced by the 19th century desire for homes to be within walking distance of workplaces, in some cases with apartments above first-floor commercial spaces on Dayton Street and Xenia Avenue, with primarily residential streets adjacent to these commercial areas. The other areas of the village that are primarily residential reflect the 20th century norm, influenced by increases in access to the car, and to the west and south of the village, the post-World War II construction of larger homes on larger lots that became the standard of success for middle-class homeowners in the United States. The Windsor Apartments at the student union site, adjacent to a single-family block, reflect an acknowledgement that higher density development is a key factor in reducing the cost of housing. They are in the older part of the village that has a history of this varying adjacent building use. While the bulk of the proposed Windsor Apartments will have market rate rents, they will provide a housing option currently unavailable in Yellow Springs, new first-class rental apartments. These may have equal appeal to people in their 20s and 30s, unsure of whether they want to remain in the area, as they do to older people interested in downsizing from single-family homes in the village, or uninterested in the maintenance and real estate tax burdens that accompany single-family home ownership. Concerns that the Windsor Apartments will have a negative impact on what used to be stated in leases as the, quote, quiet enjoyment of the residents in the adjacent single-family homes can be addressed by the developer designing physical and psychological separation through landscaping and fencing, as well as in-the-house rules included in the apartment leases and monitored by the apartment building managers. I encourage you to support this development as it's been presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is, I think this is Sheila Dunphy.
Oh, she had to go.
Okay. I'll come back at the end. The next person up is Tony Dosick. Tony here?
Tony. Yeah. Hugging it out over there, yeah.
I never thought I'd see this day. I've been sworn in. My name is Tony Dosick. I live at 315 Kingsfield Court, where I've lived for 32 years. I'm a 1967 graduate of Antioch College. I'm here to support the development of the apartments on the site of the former student union. I do so for 4 reasons. I know Jason Dorsey and the work of Windsor Properties. Windsor is well known throughout Ohio as a good property manager and landlord. They have a good reputation in a world that is not always known for its integrity. 2, the Livable, Equitable, Age-Friendly Community Survey overwhelmingly noted that rental units in the village are often subpar and are neither well-managed nor safe. We need landlords like Windsor who will build and maintain safe rental units. And we need more affordable housing, which this apartment complex will provide by setting aside 15% of its units for such housing. People talk about how unique and special this village is, and I agree. But in order to keep it unique and special, we need people to live here, not just visit. We need people to shop at Tom's and get their prescriptions filled at the Yellow Springs Pharmacy. We need people to send their kids to the Yellow Springs Independent School District. Lastly, the property currently pays 0 taxes, property taxes, as it is owned by the college, which is a tax-exempt organization. 100% of nothing is nothing. The apartments, even with the tax abatement, which is linked to its affordability, will pay taxes into our village, thus providing revenue to keep our village unique, special, and well-run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Len Kramer.
Hi, I'm Len Kramer. I've been sworn in. I've lived in the village for the last 57 years. About half of that time was on Livermore Street, south of the college. I've been by that intersection of North College and Livermore Street maybe 20,000 times in those years, or maybe more. And I want to point out that we need more apartments in Yellow Springs. That was well documented in the 2018 housing study. If anything, that need has probably increased since that time. I appreciate my friends, the neighbors of this proposed development, and their argument about the scale of the apartments if you approach the apartments from the north. If you approach this site from the south or from the west, you see Spalt Hall, 3.5 stories tall, or North Hall, 4 stories tall. This building is not dwarfed, or it does not dwarf those buildings. I would also like to thank the Planning Commission and Council for considering a 15% requirement for affordable apartments. This example of inclusionary zoning could be a precedent for all future developments in the village and a big step towards addressing the affordability issues in the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Emily Seibel.
that mean we're getting closer to the end of the list?
Then this is the end of the people who signed in. There'll still be opportunity if you haven't spoken, but
Okay, my name's Emily Seibel. I have been sworn in. I live at 128 Kenneth Hamilton Way, and I've been living in Yellow Springs since 2001. I'm here as a villager and a passionate housing advocate, but also I'm entering my 4th year serving on the Antioch College Board of Trustees, where I'm the chair of the Finance and Facilities Committee. We developed a social enterprise and enrollment plan to guide the college to the future, which is working, by the way. I just always like to share that. So part of that plan, one of 8 strategies, was to identify surplus land and activate it. Let it go back to the community. Why are we holding on to empty buildings that are not in use? Why are we holding on to land that could be serving community values when we have such scarce land resources here in Yellow Springs? So we declared a red zone, as Jane calls it, and then we developed a strategy screen before we had any proposals on the table, where we look at a number of factors when we're considering whether to sell land, and one of the big ones is, how is this going to impact the way that we communicate and our relationship with the broader village and the broader community? What's the community impact going to be? And this is one way that we can support the village of Yellow Springs. I can say that based on my personal experience, I think we're very lucky to have a developer who's willing to work in Yellow Springs. There's a reason why we haven't had any new market rate rental development in over 40 years. Our PUD is cumbersome. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of money to get through the process and time. These deals are risky and complex and costly, and we have a tough reputation for development. So I think we're very fortunate to have a group like Windsor that's willing to come in. We know that there's pent-up demand for housing at all levels, including affordable housing. I know, for example, there are more than 350 households on the Yellow Springs Home Inc. Rental interest list. With calls every week. We watch people that we love being displaced by the cost of housing here. There are people living in desperate conditions. There are health and safety concerns. There's almost nowhere to rent in this town. We watch people's Section 8 vouchers expire because they don't have anywhere to take them. The Bowen study in 2018 said we need more than 500 units of housing at all different levels. And we know that this lack of market rate rental housing options hurts access and shuts people out, and this project will help. It will alleviate pressure and expand choice. I had more, but thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there other folks who were hoping to speak? And we'll just kind of take them one by one now. All the same rules. Yeah. Go forth.
Let's get this party started. Dang it. My name's Timothy Barton, 610 Livermore. And what I wanted to kind of point out is actions.
And you got sworn in?
Yes, I did.
Cool, okay.
Actions and inactions speak louder than words. And it's time to take a hard look at this company that you've gotten into bed with. This gentleman on the end told us all, going to do a traffic survey, going to do a noise survey. This was last year. He left us all thinking, yeah, okay, he seems legit. What's he done? Nothing. Yeah, nothing. This gentleman here lied to the entire community when he showed up and said, oh, out of goodwill, out of the generosity of our heart, we've reduced it from 126 to 96, when you all know it's because they bumped into ADA laws that prevented the submerged units. Oh, but it was out of the goodness of their heart. It's mind-boggling. And then the community. You're showing to the community. Have you been to the site lately? When was the last time you were at the site?
I wasn't sworn in, so I'm not.
I apologize. I shouldn't be asking questions. If you guys have been to the site, there are floor-to-ceiling glass windows that have been blown out.
Okay.
Point of order.
People can walk into that unit now. It is a safety concern.
I'm calling a point of order.
Pause your time.
Okay, sorry.
You need to address the body, please.
Understood.
Thank you.
That's my bad. Okay. There are floor-to-ceiling blown-out glass. And I was just wondering if they knew, that's all. Construction 101 of a reputable construction company is you put up temporary fencing on a property like this. I see people all the time looking in there. Hey, what's going on in there? I'm shocked somebody hasn't been hurt. It's just a matter of time till somebody gets hurt. They haven't even boarded up the window. No OSB, no plywood. At least Antioch kept the broken windows boarded up. There just seems to be this constant lack of action. Nothing's being done, and yet what are we doing? Approve, 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 including a tax abatement that you'd think they were building a stadium for the for the Cleveland Browns, which is hurtful. At its core, I think you need to stop treating these guys like they're doing you a favor. This is a for-profit company, and they're getting a great opportunity to build in Yellow Springs. And I'd rather see you hold them accountable, get a traffic survey, then design your parking lot, not the other way around. And I'm running out of time here. I'll tell you a quick story from where I used to live, which is Malibu, California. Cher put up 20-foot walls all around her. I'm sorry, Carmen. And they were against the law. They are against the rules. Building and safety said, you got to knock them down to 8.
Address the body.
She did nothing. And they're still there 25 years later. It is so hard to go back. You have to stop it along the way. You have to hold them accountable, get the traffic survey, get the noise survey, make them do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think back here, yeah.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Mullen. I'm the director of the Yellow Springs Senior Center. I do not live in the village, but I take that position as my connection to this project. I have been sworn in. And as I'm sure this council is well aware, we are intending to build the future Yellow Springs Senior Center, catty corner from the proposed Windsor apartments at the Student Union Building. And tagging on to the previous statements, I do hope that a traffic study is carefully analyzed, and Brian made the statement about looking for specifics. And that is also because we don't yet know if East North College Street is approved, funded, planned, and how can a traffic study reflect such a great unknown? It's concerning to me that we're going to decide a route of traffic with no assurance that that is a possibility. At this point, I know the plan does not include East North College, but I think that's a really important component that needs to be assessed. We are asking, as the Senior Center, which I think reflects about a third of the community, if not more, that all of the consideration about our future juxtaposition is included in the traffic study, so that the traffic study does not take into account that right now there's an empty half-acre lot with no concerns for street parking. We need to be sure that there is clear understanding of the increased pedestrian traffic, and that some of the people coming to our events may have alternative mobility needs, like they may be in seated devices, and they may be slower to ambulate, or they may have limited sensory challenges. This is really key to the safety of our community. As we know, we've had far too many issues with vehicles traveling in a space that people need to be safe. I'm really asking you to keep this in mind, and you can make it a contingency. Not just say we want a traffic study, but that specificity, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other folks? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Jerry Papanea. I've been sworn in. I live at 214 East Whiteman Street. Today you received a copy of my letter to council members, and I hope you've read it. I'd like to reiterate a few points for the benefit of the public. Ample evidence has been presented that confirms that a minimum of 1.5 parking spaces are required for such a project in a suburban location absent sufficient public transportation. This has been ignored by both staff and the Planning Commission. U.S. Census information indicates that the average number of vehicles in Yellow Springs is 2 per household. The neighborhood cannot accommodate overflow parking of more than 50 vehicles. Steps to address obvious traffic issues requiring infrastructure improvements have thus far been avoided. These issues need to be addressed before zoning its approval, as a traffic study recommends. Our recommendations are likely to impact the site design. Cost of the necessary infrastructure improvements will also financially impact the project. The developer of Spring Meadows was responsible for the cost of public infrastructure on that project. The developer of this project should be required to do the same, since the necessary extension of East North College for public safety reasons would not be required without the proposed development. The payback on tax incentive financing that has been mentioned for the extension of North College cannot be justified, especially considering the 75% 15-year tax abatement that's being sought by the developer. The proposed density of the project at 96 units is 3 times that permitted by the section of the zoning code for high-density multifamily developments. While twice the density of the zoning code may be considered reasonable, a reasonable concession under the PUD, 300% increase is a bridge too far. The developer does not seamlessly integrate with their surrounding as advertised in their mission statement. Windsor acquired the student union property at a below market cost on the speculation that it could pursue a zoning change and financial incentives that amount to unjustified handouts in the form of tax abatement and TIF concessions that would be approved by the village administration and recommended to council. The fact of the matter is, Windsor could demolish the student union building, sell the property for appropriate development if it chooses to do so, and easily recoup its investment in the property. It could simultaneously or subsequently build a housing project in similar density to the one proposed at the student union site on an identically sized Sontag property that Windsor is currently in negotiations to purchase from Antioch. Buildings of this type proposed would be more appropriate at that location, and residents would be closer to the wellness center that has been touted as an amenity. This would be a win for Antioch and the community, and would be a demonstration of Windsor's desire to integrate additional housing stock in the community that's appropriate for the neighborhood in which it's located. To be clear, the neighbors of the student union are not opposed to high-density residential development on the site, but want to see a right-sized project that is compatible with the neighborhood and provides adequate on-site parking for project residents and addresses obvious traffic issues that will be generated. The project as proposed falls short on all 3 counts, and approval of the zoning as requested should be denied.
Thank you. Are there other folks that were hoping to speak? Yeah.
Tom Degenhart, 215 East Whiteman Street, and yes, I've been sworn in. First, I ask you to look at this application objectively. This is separate from the Kettering building. They've kind of been tied together, but it should be considered on its own merits. Per the Yellow Springs zoning code, this application does not meet many of the requirements outlined in the PUD code for properties on less than 5 acres, as well as some of the basic requirements in the general zoning code. I have addressed many of those in my letter to you guys that's in the packet. In this application, there's a table done by the village detailing density, parking, square footage, number of stories of various of all the apartment complexes in the village. At the first Planning Commission meeting, I pointed out that there were inaccuracies in that. After the meeting, I talked with Meg, and she admitted that yes, it was not a correct document, that it needed to be verified and updated. It's the same table that you have in the thing there. In that, the village-owned Lawson Place apartments, parking is underestimated or underreported by 50%. Hawthorne Place, underreported by 20%. Twin Coach, underreported by 25%. Oh, and tell the people in Twin Coach, they live in a 1-story building, because that's what the table says. Not a 3-story. The table says they live in a 1-story building. And you may ask, what difference does this make? Well, you were given this information to base your decision on. So you're given incorrect information, which at best was sloppy, at worst purposely misleading. One of the contentious items on this is parking and traffic study. All agree that this traffic study is needed, which you've seen tonight. For the Oberer PUD, council asked that a traffic study be done before the preliminary plan was approved. That's what should happen here as well. Choice One sent an email on February 24th stating that a traffic study could be done after rezoning, but before or during preliminary planning. The very next day, Meg replied in an email to them, to Choice One, asking them to reword that email, saying that it could be done by final approval, not preliminary approval. So she asked the consultant to change the wording of their recommendation letter. Of course, some people think that parking's not an issue, that they're only asking for a variance of 90 parking spaces. But according to Meg, again, in an email to Riley Dixon this week, or last week, if it is a problem in 20 years, this is what a quote from her, if it's a problem in 20 years, the village will need to take a role in solving the hypothetical problem. Shouldn't we be anticipating and solving problems before they happen? The village has a requirement that in parking lots outside the central business district with over 10 parking spaces have a tree island for every 10 cars. Meg was asked about that at the last Planning Commission meeting, and she said it's another part of the code, but it's still a code that applies. They shouldn't. It does not meet this does not meet the open space requirement. Susan Stiles asked under Yellow Springs code. She disagreed with it and asked Meg where those numbers came from. She said Windsor. So we're relying on them to self-regulate here. Their numbers are wildly off, and I think a judge would agree with that as well. The solution to this problem is for East North College Street to be extended from Livermore to Quarry. All access be restricted to that street. Have an appropriate density to the area, to the village, required usable open space, which this does not meet, and the required number of parking spaces. So in other words, follow the rules set forth by the village. The village has rules for a reason, zoning's for a reason. This does not follow them. Let's ask that they be followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Gavin. I've not been sworn in. Do you know I need to swear me in?
Yes. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in matters before this board?
Yes.
Great. And then just name and address, and then go for it.
1234 Livermore Street.
Malta Van Matheson, yeah.
My name is Malta Van Matheson, right. I came here in 1961, a student at college, and I've seen a lot of changes in this town. Over the years, the college has disappeared, really, from the consciousness of a lot of folks. And it has been a vital, critical asset of this community, especially its commitment to social justice and democracy. This proposal, I back up here, Jane asked me to participate in some of the early discussions with Windsor. And I think that this proposal is not perfect, but it's the way we need to go. It's a positive direction. The most difficult decision that you all have is there's never any perfect outcome. No perfect answer, right? It's a compromise. I've learned that throughout my life. The college has to downsize its footprint. Actually, I preceded Emily as the chair of the facilities committee at the College Board of Trustees, and actually served on the Board of Trustees of the college for almost 20 years on and off. I did do a complete study about the facilities that the college had back in 2017-18, and we determined that we didn't need all these buildings, and a lot of these buildings were in disrepair. We've made some minor adjustments to improve the buildings, but, you know, it's always been about financial resources and access to financial resources. So I think that the Windsor group is, you know, could be a real partner for us in this whole process. And so I'm very positive about this because it's essential that the college be able to participate and continue to go down the road of downsizing its footprint, because we're never going to be what we were when I was here. It was 2,200 students, right? So we need a smaller space. The Windsor folks, I think, have demonstrated that they're prepared to be good partners in this process. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there other folks who haven't spoken yet who are hoping to weigh in?
Over here.
Yes. And just to be clear, this is just on the I know. Okay. All right. Come on up.
Hi. Do I go like that?
Did you do your swearing in before?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in matters before this board?
Yes.
Okay. And then just name and address and go for it.
My name is Patty Dallas, and I live at 507 South High Street. I forget what I was going to say. I haven't been following this whole thing very well, or, you know, but what I've heard tonight, it feels to me that if there could be a reduction of the number of apartments that are being proposed, that would solve a lot of the issues. I mean, I wish the village of Yellow Springs could just do their own building and stuff and not, anyway, but that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, I guess that's what I would propose to, or suggest, that that you make it a little smaller with a little less apartments. It just wouldn't be such a gigantic thing. That's it. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, right back here and then right up here. Yep.
I was not sworn in. I wasn't expecting to speak.
Okay, I'll do this real quick.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in matters before the board?
Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
great. And then just name and address.
Okay.
Go for
I'm
it.
Stephanie Pierce. I live at 1605 Spillane, and now I've been sworn in. I actually have personal experience with the Windsor Company. I was a business in the Firebox District when they bought those properties. I won't get into a lot of specifics of that, but they initially were not good stewards of the properties, and was a good reason why I left that building and that block. And I'm not sure, I don't know these gentlemen personally. It wasn't, that situation. But I just want to say that they're a very aggressive for-profit company, and I think it would be foolish to give them that tax abatement. They can afford it. And it's disrespectful to the people that are struggling to stay here and pay for the school system, type all these other things. And that's just, we definitely need apartments. I'm a renter in this town. But we shouldn't be given, the big people breaks, that these aren't really going to benefit the people that are on the waiting list for these affordable homes and affordable apartments. That's not what they're building. And they may throw a couple of them in there, but they're not going to have an apartment that's cheaper than the house I rent, so, yeah. But that's all. Just throwing my 2 cents in.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jacinta Williams. I go by Jay. I live at 248 Whitehall Drive. I was born here in '51. I returned back home a year ago in June, and it's been quite an adjustment, to say the least. But when I look at models like this, the neighborhood I was living in at Cincinnati had a lot of character, a lot of old buildings, people having gardens in their yards and, sunflowers and even miniature pigs and chickens and stuff like that. I mean, it was really cool. And even, geese and coyotes. I mean, it was, next to Mount Airy Forest. And over the years, they decided that they were going to give it a big facelift and knock down some really beautiful old individually styled buildings and restaurants, and we ended up with a lot of stuff that looked like this. Now, this doesn't look really bad to me, but it doesn't have any character. It's accommodating, and it's probably very clean, and it's furnished and everything, it takes care of what people's basic needs is. But one of the things I always loved about growing up here and living here and why people want to live here is because of its character, its flavor, and its values that are reflected in the architecture and the kinds of buildings and the housing that we have. And this looks like cookie cutter cardboard stuff that we ended up with in Northside, and it lost a lot of character. So a lot of people could move to Northside because it was really nice, very open to a lot of different points of view and diversity and all that. But this, if we start keep going in a direction like this, we're going to lose a lot of flavor. I mean, this is very nice, and I guess it's beautiful, but it looks like cookie cutter stuff that you could put up just about anywhere. And I hope that, I'm 73 now, and I hope that I don't see Yellow Springs, my beautiful hometown that I love so much, losing some of its personality and character doing things that look like this, because that's what happened in Northside. And it just lost all of its flavor. It just looked like factory cookie cutter housing. I'm listening to all this discussion about traffic and things like that, and it's something to be taken into consideration, but I think we need to keep our identity in terms of how our housing looks in the simplicity and beauty of just simplicity rather than something that doesn't really look like much of anything. It's accommodating, but it has no character. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak? Okay.
Can I just respond to a handful of points?
Give me just 1 second to figure out the process, but yes, certainly. So going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, so I just want to pause and say thank you to everybody for coming to speak, and I think having a healthy dialogue, so appreciate it. Okay, so just sort of a check-in on process here. So basically, at this point, so we close the public hearing, right?
No, this one won't close for yet. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing, and then I don't mind having folks from Windsor come and respond to things, and then we can start asking questions of, I guess we could start with any questions folks have for Windsor people, and then we could also ask any questions of staff at the village or any other questions that people have. Does that sound good? Okay, so go ahead.
Did you make a motion? Do we have to do that or not? We don't have
We
to
did
make
the
a
motion at the beginning, I think,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just a couple points. In terms of precedent, a couple people had that comment. I think it's important to emphasize or just reiterate that this process is demonstrating that each project is evaluated based off of its individual merit. And one cannot argue that because Project A got approved, that is a reason that Project B should get approved. That's it's a factual misstatement, I would say, to say precedent is something that is coming into play because of those regulations, and Dan can expand upon that if there are any questions on that point. I thought that bared mentioning. And then second, as it pertains to ADA laws, factoring into the rationale of a unit decrease, I would just reiterate Dan's commentary earlier that we wouldn't secure a building permit for something that was not in code. So the plans that I think people have reacted to are conceptual and do not have the level of detail that would be required for us to get a building permit and when we resubmit our final plan to you. So it certainly was not a factor in our decision. We couldn't propose something that we then couldn't build. It's not in our interest, it's not in your interest, it's not in anyone's interest, and we wouldn't be able to do it. So I figured those are 2 points that we wanted to clarify.
Okay, thank you. I guess while he's up here, are there any questions that anybody on council has for Windsor?
None this time.
So I want to talk about the conditions. So,
Okay.
yeah, you can have a seat.
Yeah.
Whenever we get to do that. So
I don't mind. Sure, go for it, Brian.
Okay.
I think we're in the like kind of open, what are you thinking, what questions do you have phase, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we've already established that, the condition about permanently affordable, we can specifically say 15 units. I mean, that was promised, at the prior meeting, so I'd like to amend that condition. I would like the condition on the study to be traffic/parking/bike ped. I think that's pretty easy. And I think,
Excuse me.
I heard.
Yeah, please do not.
And I think I heard that, Windsor's amenable to that. And then I want to add East North College into the mix, however that looks like. And by the way, I do want to also say, we have not discussed tax abatements as a council, so those references are, we have not had that discussion yet. So, and I think it highlights that, there's going to be a process here. We're just getting started. But anyway, those are my 3 things. I said them at the last council meeting. I'd like those to be in the conditions, and then hopefully I'm clear on what I mean by East North College, that we need to extend it to Corey. And I do agree with Desiree's comments that should be contemplated in the study, along with what Carolyn said about, like, we're going to have a senior center there, like, not just, yeah. So I think we're good on that. I mean, those don't seem like any issues, but yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Just one point on East North College. Neither we nor the village control that piece of land, so I think it's hard for us to weigh that as a condition to approval, given none of us control that piece of land. So I think it's worth mentioning.
That's a fair comment. Okay.
Noise abatement, noise.
Okay, so we've got, sorry, we heard all the stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, noise and stormwater and all those things are part of the planning commission process moving forward. So, so those won't get lost in the process.
okay, other questions, comments from other council members?
None at this time.
No.
Okay. I'm going to sort of take off my facilitator hat and put on my I'm a council person 2 hat and just share a few thoughts. Brian, I'm glad you mentioned, maybe we should have said it at the beginning. So the tax abatement piece is, nothing has happened. And so there has been no discussion about it. And so that will be a thing that we will talk about. Johnny's going to talk about it or get a conversation started in the manager's report tonight, so just note that that is something that has not changed, that has not been decided. And then the other thing I just want to make sure that everybody here is clear about is that this isn't the final step in a process. So as you've heard referenced multiple times, there are things that we can say, hey, we want you to look into this, and then there's going to be, there would have to be another step of final approval before anything would go forth. So this has been I would say for me, it's been a challenging, complex process to be a part of. And so I just want to mention a few of the things that have been sort of key considerations for me as I've thought this through. It won't be exhaustive. We could probably talk about this for hours, but I'll try to give a summary of the things that have been key into my thinking. And this is in no particular order. One of the things that I feel like is the kind of core question here is scale. There is this sort of question of, I think we could all agree that a skyscraper wouldn't make sense, and then obviously I haven't heard anybody disagree that 32 units that would be allowed based on the current zoning with no modification would make sense. There's been a general consensus, it seems like, of folks talking about the idea of 64. And so there is this, I think it's a legitimate question, and so I guess I want to say to my neighbors and people here that I think there is a legitimate question about how we think about scale and density in the village. I do grapple with this idea of like what it means to be a NIMBY, where like I don't think there's a problem with people raising questions about scale, for example, and I've seen a lot of what I would generally consider to be NIMBYism in this community over time. And so it's just, something can be what do they say, like a rhombus and not a square, or, whatever that, all squares are rhombuses, but not all rhombuses are squares. Anyway, so just to say that I don't personally have a problem with people raising some of these questions. I don't think it necessarily means that people are anti-development. I feel like I've heard a lot of people saying that you appreciate the need for housing, and so I think there is some complexity. I've thought a lot about sort of what is the bar of communication and how do we create spaces to have good dialogues between all parties, between developers and neighborhood residents, and then as council people, planning commission members. And I feel like we really struggle at this in this community. I think part of it is because of the capacity that we have. So we have a very small staff that's trying to figure out how to act responsibly and responsively, and there's not a lot of space to do proactive thinking and to be planning for the future. And that's something that has been very clear to me as we've struggled to do strategic planning, as we struggled to figure out what our long-term alignment is. Part of that dynamic is that we just don't have that many people to do all these things. And then all of us are part-time, like super part-time. And so I think many of us would probably love to talk about this all day with everyone and to have a much more extensive process for communication. But there are some very real time, money, and expertise, capacity challenges as part of our process. One of the things that this process brings up for me that I find that almost everything that happens up on this dais is that there's nearly a constant stream of inaccurate information. There's simultaneously tons and tons of facts. If we spent every time that there was something that was wrong outright or that was presented incorrectly from a sort of nuanced perspective, if we responded to it, all of the meetings would take a really long time, and we would spend all of our time writing letters to the editor and responding on Facebook comments. And so we're always trying to find the right balance of how do you communicate. And I do fear that we're in this cycle where we hesitate to communicate about things fully because of the sort of corresponding pushback that is often not based in reality. And I'll say often, that is sometimes not based in reality. It is very normal. I've heard many, many comments tonight that I think are just not true, and then other ones that I think are a misrepresentation of the information. And so trying to figure out how do we have a healthy dialogue is something that I've been thinking a lot about, and I don't know the answers for, but I feel pretty confident that we've gone too far toward not enough communication, and that finding more communication would be healthy for our village, not just on this project, but more broadly. Especially when it's pretty common now for us to get into what I would consider to be clear hyperbole, where it's like, this is going to be the end of something, or this will never, and I understand where it comes from, but it becomes very challenging to have a measured conversation. I feel like we've heard probably the most about the impacts to the immediate neighbors, and I understand that. It's the most, for people who live directly adjacent to the property, there will be impacts. I feel like I don't think we've talked enough about the slow and consistent impact of the changes over the last several decades of not making proactive planning a priority for how we address housing and opportunities for different people in our community. And so there's an immediate impact, but then there's also a long-term impact that I just want to name and I feel like is really important. I think the Bowen study does a good job of identifying. I think most folks are aware. We've literally been decades without ever doing large-scale apartment buildings at this point, and it feels like at some point we need to change that dynamic. I think the other dynamic is that, is it possible that we could come back, that we could figure out a plan that everyone would agree on? I don't think it's impossible. I think the hard part is that for decades it hasn't come about. I'm not sure that we're well equipped to figure it out now in a notably better way with this body and with this staff and with this community. I've watched people say things that are, I think, directly contradictory to things they've said on other projects, and I don't know how to ever square the fact that consistency is a real challenge. So anyway, those are, there's many other things that I've thought about throughout this process, but just to say, those are some of the things that have gone into my
Point of order.
thinking.
I'm calling the point because I want you to I think that it's appropriate that you let everybody know that these are your personal thoughts and your personal feelings and how you've been dealing in the body specifically, because I tend to disagree, and I would prefer to get back out of the weeds and more onto the agenda. It's 8:30.
Okay, I said at the beginning that this was not as the facilitator. These are my personal comments.
As a
I don't-
council, you said as a council person.
Yeah, this is how I feel as a council person. Is that
All right.
okay? I feel like it's an important community dialogue. I wanted to let people know how I'm thinking about it.
I enjoyed your comments.
Please do not respond.
Sounded like you listened, sounds like you cared, meant a lot.
Right.
So,
I mean, you were over there somewhere.
so those are my thoughts. I guess. Are there any other questions that anybody has for either staff or anyone else before? It seems like we would move to a vote. I guess. Are there any other questions or comments? Or maybe we need to go through the considerations that you mentioned a little more. I'm not entirely sure how that process works.
I guess so. Amy, do you want to speak to how we handle the conditions or modifications? I mean, I guess we need to make, or I need to make motions to
I would make
those?
motions, if you want to have
Okay.
modifications from the way the conditions of approval are currently in the report.
Okay. All right, so my computer died.
I've got down what you said, Brian.
Do you need more?
Yeah, but I took a picture. Okay, so the first condition says prior to final development plan approval, a traffic impact study must be conducted, and then it's going to be reflected in the final development plan. So I want to make a motion that we modify that first sentence to say a traffic/parking/bike ped impact study.
And then I guess, could I just make a friendly amendment?
Sure.
I don't know how this works, but this piece around, that factors in the senior center or any other sort of known or likely developments?
Sure. I think that sounds great. So is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
So is this the way to do it, that we would be looking at each individual piece, or how?
I'm sorry, say it again.
So, what's that?
Can,
So Brian's making a motion to say, hey, I want to update the condition of approval. Do we vote on each one, or do we do it all at once at the end?
I would vote on each one, each change of condition. Also, it's important to note that if we get too far off from what's currently in the ordinance, we're going to be looking at kicking it back to first reading. But I don't think anything I've heard so far from Brian is going to push us that far. I also think that it would be helpful maybe to hear from Meg or even the applicant about the idea of converting the traffic study into a traffic/parking study, just to make sure that that's a thing.
Yeah, and the way it was worded was traffic/parking/bike/pedestrian plus senior center or other currently considered developments. So I think that would capture the full breadth that I've heard everyone reference.
Yeah, that's what I believe I've heard from Windsor as well, so I think that's in line with what they believe they can provide to the council or planning commission staff.
Okay.
All right, you guys aren't, that's cool? All right, cool. Okay.
So I think we vote, you're saying one by one.
One by one.
So all those in favor
so
of that?
did we get a second?
Yes.
Yeah, Trish.
Thank you.
Trish second.
So all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
I'm adding all those words, aye.
Okay. And then I want to make a motion on the second condition to change it to a minimum of 15 of the dwelling units. So just basically take out percent. Shall be permanently affordable. Which we got confirmation at a prior meeting that was good, so.
I don't ever remember hearing that. So is that the case? 15? Yes. Okay. Okay. So
Yeah, actually Scott made you guys,
okay. Sorry, I missed that one. So is there a second for that? I'll second that. So any questions? Okay. All those in favor of changing the condition of approval from a minimum of 15% to 15 dwelling units, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay.
And then I don't know what to do about East North College.
Can I speak to that one?
Yep.
We cannot do anything with that. We do not
Okay.
own it. And this needs to be, I said in planning commission, this PUD has to be, this is for their property. This is not for public right-of-way. This is not for Antioch's property. So council should approve based on the project for the PUD.
I get that. So, and we
And I
still.
also mentioned that I have been working with Jane
Yep.
for 3 or 4 months, and we're getting things aligned, but it should not be part of the council's.
And I think that's fair. I mean, ultimately, it's going to come back to us.
Ultimately,
Final
yes.
approval, right?
Correct.
So, yeah, I guess I just want to say for
No,
the
it
record.
actually is not.
Not on the college, but on the design. But
No.
one
Well,
thing
if
I
you
can
mean-
say,
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Johnny. If you mean it's coming back to us, it's coming back to planning commission for final approval, staff and planning. The final development plan will not come before council.
Okay, so I feel confident, and I want to put it on the record that East North College is going to be opened up, because I know we've been talking about that, and we've been talking about that. So I'm gonna let that go, because I think it's going to get worked out. So.
Yeah, and I'll just add in I think I generally agree, which is that my hope is that it gets done. I've heard lots of the parties that have the ability to work on it that are trying, it sounds like. Also seen many of these things that don't go through, so I guess I would just ask staff that if there's ever a point at which there is a sort of fork in the road where it doesn't seem like it's going to happen for some reason, that it'd be helpful to know that.
Yes.
Anything else on the street question? Okay. And then, so I haven't heard anything about the conditions of approval number 3, number 4, or number 5. So I am assuming that that means there are not any amendments to those or questions about those? Okay, and then are there any additional conditions of approval or other considerations that have not been referenced that anybody wants to bring up? Okay, so hearing none, then I think we're at the point of just, we vote on it now, right? With all of those amendments having been made?
Yes.
Or the amendments to the conditions of approval?
Well, that's my question, is do we specify the changes in the planning commission recommendation? Village council accepts planning commission recommendation with the following modifications. Number 1, dated. Number 2, this one.
I think that if we, just so that I'm sure we're all on the same page, we are talking about 2025-11, right?
Correct.
Yes. So I think I would recommend changing section 1 of that ordinance to read, the village council accepts the planning commission's recommendation with modifications. I don't think we need to spell them out in the ordinance. The record will show what they are.
Okay. So I'll move to approve with modifications. What's that?
Sorry, we were done with public comment.
Second.
Okay. So then, I guess, call the roll, right?
Okay, so hold on. I just lost what you were, so you were making a motion to approve
With
2025-11 with the modifications as previously stated. Trish?
You're seconded.
Yes.
Seconded. Thank you. Brown?
Yes.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Ouch.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now my understanding is that we come back to the
Rezone.
tabled rezone. So do I need to ask it to be read again or something, or?
You untable.
Yeah.
Okay, so a motion, do I have to make a motion to untable? Okay, I make a motion to untable.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I guess, is there any additional, do I have to do a public hearing
Yes,
stuff again?
you have one separate.
You do need
will
But
have
that's
a
on
separate.
Kettering, but on
No,
the
you will have,
rezone?
yes,
So do public hearing now?
yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to open the public hearing for 2025-10, which is the same parcel we just talked about, but the rezoning. Okay, so now I can just close the public hearing, right?
Yep.
So close the public hearing, and then are there any questions that anyone has about the rezoning? Okay, I guess all those in favor?
Aye.
We already did the motion, right?
Can I ask,
Sorry.
so you're untabled, does the original motion to approve stand? We need a new motion to approve.
I don't believe we need it, but it certainly cannot hurt.
Okay,
And it's
can I
your
get a
right.
motion on 2025-10?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, and then all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
We need a roll call, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, roll call, okay.
Sorry. Hausch?
Yes.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
DeVore Leonard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're through the student union components, and now we'll move on to the Kettering components. I think we should just do the same thing we did the last time, right? So can I just read the rezoning second, or do we have to do it and then table it?
No, you can jump ahead to 13
Okay.
and then go back to 12, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna, Judy, if you could read by title only, ordinance 2025-13.
This is approving the preliminary development plan for...
Maybe, all right, so we'll just maybe wait 1 second for folks to move out. Thank you.
This is approving the preliminary development plan for a PUD located at 150 East South College Street.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I think we'll go to Meg.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Meg Leatherman, Planning and Economic Development Director. This is for ordinance 2025-12, or do we just open 2025-13? Sorry.
13, yeah.
Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing where we'll come back. Okay. So this is the second reading for the ordinance.
You can't close the door.
Yeah. We could ask them to be quiet. Yeah.
A first reading was held with council on June 16th. Following a public hearing on May 13, 2025, the Planning Commission recommended approval of a request to rezone property located at 150 East South College Street from E1 to PUD. They then recommended approval of a preliminary development plan for the same property. Both recommendations passed on a 5-0 vote. A staff packet has been provided to council and posted on our website that includes the applicable code, the materials the Planning Commission used to make their decision, as well as conditions of approval. The same code criteria applies for the council in rendering the decision. It's 1254.05C5 and reads, the council should review the preliminary development plan, the record of the Planning Commission proceedings, the standards of 1254.06, and the recommendation of the council, and shall either approve, disapprove, or approve with modifications the preliminary development plan and rezoning request. So in summary, the applicant proposes to redevelopment of the existing Kettering building into 43 multifamily units while maintaining the current development footprint. So the existing structure in this instance would actually remain and be renovated to include 43 apartments. The off-street parking location, the vehicular access point, sidewalks, and open space areas would all remain in the same location. The applicant did propose adding a community garden in the front as well as a gathering area as their proposed outdoor amenities. There is a proposed demolition, but it's only of the small garage that's in the rear of the existing building. Again, the PUD section of our code allows for deviations from certain dimensional standards and also deviations to density as long as the applicant commits to having certain amenities. The Planning Commission decision included one request for deviations to standards to off-street parking. So they're proposing to provide 52 off-street parking spaces on the property, and the density proposed comes to a calculation of 44.4 dwelling units per acre. Staff finds that the requested modification and density bonus are reasonable and appropriate in light of the proposed amenities and conditions of approval. Again, they meet the intent of the village code and comprehensive plan, which emphasizes the preservation of land outside the village boundary through conservation easements while encouraging redevelopment within the village limits. So the conditions of approval in this case are similar to the Union property. There is a little bit of a difference, though. There's the traffic study, again, that is required prior to the final approval of the final PUD with the Planning Commission. At least 15% of the units to be designated as permanently affordable for households earning 80% or less than the area median income, to provide off-street parking of 43 spaces, and prior to final development plan, obtain village approval of a stormwater management plan in accordance with Village Code 122606. There also was an additional condition of approval that was added as part of the Planning Commission recommendation that wasn't in the staff packet. There was and they did approve, include it in their recommendation though, which states that there will be screening, a landscape screening provided on the southern property boundary along the alley due to the public input at the public hearing with Planning Commission. And I'll stand for any questions.
Great. Any initial questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So would somebody from Windsor like to go next?
If you wouldn't mind turning to slide 9. or actually, let's skip right to slide 10. I think thematically, a lot of the points that I made earlier hold true, so I won't repeat myself given the hour. What I will say is adaptive reuse it can be a challenging thing to pull off. So I think you want to partner with a developer who's done it, and I think we're probably one of the foremost experts in the state on adaptive reuse projects, and that's measured not subjectively, but by nature of the fact that we've done probably the second most in terms of historic tax credit syndication and the preservation of historic buildings in the state. So that's just a measure. Again, I think we're uniquely qualified to take what is a beautiful building that's part of the fabric of the community and breathe new life into it. So what we propose are those 43 units, 9 studios, 31 bedrooms, and 4 two-bedroom units to complement what is at the Student Union site. Again, footprint doesn't change outside of taking down what is currently a pretty derelict garage, providing more off-street parking, and beautifying what's there, landscaping, etc. That's really all I'd add. Meg's assessment was comprehensive. Appreciate your time, and I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, so now we'll open the public hearing. So I think Molly might win the award. Molly Burke, thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to confirm I have been sworn in. So I'm a resident at 143 Marshall Street, which is the building directly abutting the Kettering building. And I'm really lucky to have purchased this property from Antioch. So I'm the direct result of Antioch divesting some of its buildings to welcome new families into the area. And because of that, I'd like to share that I'm very much in support of these conversions, of preserving the Kettering building while bringing in additional families. There's a few points that I wanted to raise on behalf of myself and my neighbor who's not able to be here this evening. One, which Meg already addressed, is the addition of the landscape screening. So I'm really grateful. With the removal of the garage building, we had concerns about the additional light pollution of what will be 43 units worth of cars as opposed to maybe 4 to 10 radio station employees pulling in and out every evening and the impact to our homes. So I'm grateful for that change being included. The other things I just wanted to ensure is that we will have continued access to the municipal alleyways that are currently on the property. We need access to these municipal alleyways in order to access our garages. I don't believe there will be any impact, but given the unique way in which they intersect those properties, I just wanted to make sure that that concern was raised. Lastly, I would like to request that there is a noise study done, as 43 units each having individual mini splits could result in the level of volume of sound of a vacuum hum constantly, and making sure that we're continuing to preserve the feeling of our community, our neighborhood, while welcoming those in to join us. So thank you very much for your time, and I will cede my remaining minute and a half.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's possible that someone who spoke earlier also was anticipating speaking on this, but there's nobody else. So is there anyone else who wants to speak on this public hearing?
Yeah, please.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. So questions or comments from council members?
Well, so I guess for consistency, maybe we should make the condition about the study the same. And then, I guess since Scott's not here, I'll ask, so 6.45, are we talking about 6 units or 7 units permanently affordable?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're similar round up.
Okay, cool. So I guess I would kind of make the same suggestions, like, change the study language, change to 7 units, and yeah.
Can you do that just specifically by number, like condition of this?
Yep. So on, I believe it's going to be condition 1 again, is to modify the language to say traffic/parking/bike ped study. recognizing that we have the senior center in the mix. And then I think the other one is condition 2, to replace.
So let's just start real quick.
Oh,
and
sorry.
do that.
Oh, yeah,
So just
sorry.
do a motion. So I got a motion on
yeah.
that one. Is there a second on the change the first one?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
And then a motion on condition 2 to change 15% to 7 units.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So then, there's no other changes to, I haven't heard anybody, well, I guess, does anybody else have any other comments besides those things?
No.
Okay. Can I just ask real quick, on the noise thing, did I understand this correctly? So the noise assessment, that's part of the information that gets provided to Planning Commission, is that correct?
There's not necessarily an assessment, but they have to provide the decibel levels of the mechanical equipment.
Okay. And that's where, right now, we don't have specific things, and so then for the final, we would get specific things, and then we'd talk about it at the final at Planning Commission.
Planning Commission,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, just checking. Yeah, oh, and then the alley question that's come up?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
And that alley will remain an alley because we need to access our utilities.
Yeah. I hadn't heard any reason to think.
I took care of that one. I got it.
Okay. All right. Well, hearing no other questions, so could I get a motion on the conditions of approval as stated in the recommendation with the changes that we just made to number 1 and 2?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and then I think this is the roll call vote, right?
So was that last motion was changing ordinance 2025-13 the same way we changed the last one?
Yes, to say, we accept the planning
Approval with
commission recommendation.
with modifications?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes, okay.
Brown?
Yes.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Ausch?
Yes.
DeVore Leonard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, if you could, Judy, read by title only, I think it's 2025-12?
Yes, this is rezoning 11 parcels totaling 1.256 acres of property located at 150 East South College Street to planned unit development and amending the zoning map accordingly.
Okay, and I think we've already heard about this one, so are there...
I'll move.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. So move and a second, Brian and then Trish. Are there any questions about this?
I don't have one.
Okay, so you want to call the roll, Judy?
We need a public hearing.
Oh, sorry. Opening the public hearing on 2025-12. This is the rezoning for the Kettering property. Okay, closing the public hearing, and I think we were ready, so if you could call the roll.
All right. Gustafson?
Yes.
Ausch?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
DeVore Leonard?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'm about ready to retire, I guess. Somebody, we got to call Kevin, right, or?
I did not. I'm gonna run and get some water.
I think you're allowed. Yeah. Welcome.
So we're taking a little recess. I missed you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All righty.
Oh.
Got stuff to do. Yeah. Legislation, remarkably enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still.
538. So 2025-38.
Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah, this thing is.
We actually have a cool resolution.
Johnny's
For Johnny, but that's
thing.
where,
And then this is 39, yep. If my name weren't already.
Waiting for a second for Johnny to get back, right? Oh, is that, sorry?
Well, Carmen's done.
Oh, I'm just lamenting over the fact that you're very small, that,
Very small. Yeah,
I know. See, I bring the back to share.
I used to share, and then people got COVID one time. And then
Oh, that's right, with the grapes, huh?
Yes. It spreads on food. apparently.
Say, well, I did not eat any of those grapes, I'll
No,
say.
I
so.
don't think that's
DoorDash.
So, yeah, Carmen was
What'd
just
you bring us?
outside.
Jolly Ranchers.
I was talking to the Windsor.
They're closed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I don't need Carmen to come in. It'll take a second. You should feel free. And you'll make a comment. I want to go in there.
gotta wake her up first. She does.
Or you talking about how
Already.
you were the winner? We're all talking about.
Are you going to use your, Amy, are you going to use your special mic tonight?
I had to earlier, so I was trying to get it.
You couldn't get to the podium, huh? Well, why don't we go ahead? I mean, I'm anxious to have a meeting. I know you guys don't know.
I'm anxious to go to bed, so.
I'm ready to go. So let's resume. If the staff could allow us to continue. We'd appreciate it. So I'm in rare form now. I mean, I'm armed for bear. No, I'll be nice. I'll be nice. Oh, all right, moving on.
Thank you.
Judy, if you could read by title only, Resolution 2025-38.
This is approving an amendment to the employment contract with Village Manager Johnny Burns to allow for a vehicle allowance.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All right, thank you. Amy?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Feels nice to stand up. Council, of course, approves the village manager's employment contract by resolution. This is an amendment to that contract. The background is that the chief of police's village vehicle died, and she is now driving the vehicle that the village manager was driving. So this is an amendment to his contract. Rather than, we're striking the language that the village will provide him with a vehicle, and instead this is the village providing him with a vehicle allowance and mileage if he travels more than 50 miles round trip.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments?
Well, just, I mean, we had this in Josue's contract,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's not new.
Okay.
So,
All right. All right. Hearing no other comments, all those in favor of approving this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. All right. Thank you very much. That motion is passed. Judy, now we're at Resolution 2025-39. Would you mind reading that in full, please?
And I will actually ask Brian to do some false. He's the instigator of this.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
And actually, Kellyanne Tracy was the major instigator.
Okay.
And I want to appreciate Kellyanne reaching out and also being part of the banner that we have downtown, which I think is amazing. So it's a perfect week to read Resolution 2025-39, celebrating the Miami Township Fire and Rescue Team. Whereas the Miami Township Fire and Rescue Team, MTFR, provides invaluable, vital services to community members with an intentional and compassionate style, and whereas it is important to honor our local heroes who bring courage and dedication to keep our community safe 24/7, 365. And whereas our firefighters and EMTs play an essential role in protecting lives and property, ensuring public safety in Miami Township and the Village of Yellow Springs, and whereas Village Council commends the MTFR's bravery and selfless service in responding to emergencies with expertise and swift decision-making to address critical situations, and whereas the MTFR team consistently demonstrates bravery and professionalism in responding to emergencies, often putting their own safety at risk while always representing community values. And whereas the village team appreciates the integral part played by firefighters and EMS personnel in safeguarding the lives and well-being of our residents and visitors, now therefore be it resolved by Council for the Village of Yellow Springs that, Section 1, Village Council encourages community members to thank our Miami Township Fire and Rescue team members, showing our appreciation for and honoring their thoughtful service during MTFR Appreciation Week, which is this week, July 6th through 12th. And Section 2, Village Council highly values our strong relationship and meaningful collaboration with Miami Township and our incredible firefighters and EMTs. Thank you for your service.
Much appreciated. I just want to say thank you. I know you have a long meeting here. I'm new. I'd like to introduce myself, Jim Kennel. I'm the new fire chief. And I've been with this group for about a week now, and I can tell you, you're in good hands. Nice. I watched them perform today. They're very compassionate, very caring, and they put the people first. And that's what we're looking for in this business. So thanks again, and appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, appreciate you.
I just really wanted to thank you guys for providing this, but also I wanted to thank our community for providing me with the opportunity to be of service. I have never lived anywhere where I could just as a community member step in and make something like this happen. We have, the mayor came and did a proclamation, you folks did yours today. I got over 27 of our community businesses that sponsored this event for us. Wow. So we've been able to provide several meals a day for the guys. We had a great gift bag that we were able to give them and really showed them how much that we value them here, and they really needed that at a time that they really need it. We have a fresh new start with the new chief coming on, but again, I really want to thank Yellow Springs for providing that opportunity for I'm just a villager, to be able to actually really make a difference. I'm grateful.
And Jim, I'm going to be handed a pen.
Ooh, nice. There you go.
So I'm going to give each of you a pen. You are now honorary members of Yellow Springs Village Council. Thank you.
Oh,
and I met Jim.
What can I do with this?
when y'all were doing a whole bunch of work, I was out there gathering with Jim. He's a great guy. I really, really appreciate him just being so straightforward and offering his help and support. So look forward to a long tenure. I know your primary job is to replace yourself, but you can do that if you want. Take your time.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you, Elise.
Thanks.
All righty.
I don't think we got a motion.
We did. I thought we did. So moved. And second. And I thought we did, but thank you for keeping us honest. All
I
right.
didn't hear it if it happens.
Retro works.
Go ahead
All right, the time we've all been waiting for, citizen concerns.
No, if you could call the vote on
Vote, I'm sorry. See, I'm out of practice. See, aye. Thank you. All in favor, please, thank you. That's aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you very much. Yeah, I need to not sit outside the meeting for 2 hours. It's not good for me. All right, I'm about to go to citizen concerns. Is there anything else that needs to be done before we go to
Oh, no, I think you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
You all know the rules. You've heard them for the other conversations, but you got the clock here for 3 minutes. You're able to talk about any comment, any conversation you want to have with us. Just go ahead and go for it. Just stand up, grab the mic. Don't grab the mic. Just stand in front of the mic. And go ahead.
Hi, I'm Emily Seipel, Executive Director of Yellow Springs Home Inc., and I just wanted to come to personally thank you for all of the support that you provided in our advocacy efforts for the Ohio Housing Trust Fund, which, as you know, was dismantled in the Ohio House's version of the budget. And, you know, I got to submit your resolution as part of my congressional testimony, and we were absolutely thrilled to learn that the Senate responded to our statewide advocacy efforts, not just from Yellow Springs. There were a lot of folks that came together around the state, and it's now fully restored and has been signed into law with additional funds going for new affordable housing initiatives. So it was really successful. In a time when there's a lot of crappy news, I just had to say, like, thank you for helping us with this win. 50,000 Ohioans a year are impacted by this fund, which is not paid from taxpayer dollars. It's paid from a portion of recorder fees from the county, and it's funded at approximately $65 million a year. And so it's essential for the work that we do here in the village, smaller scale affordable housing development, but it helps a whole bunch of other stuff too, including homelessness services and a range of other really important initiatives. So thank you again. And if you would like to see the Ohio Housing Trust Fund in action, you are more than welcome to attend our Cascades Phase 1 open house ribbon cutting and community celebration, which will be held on Thursday, July 24th from 4 to 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And I'd like to once again thank Emily, thank Brian Hausch and Rebecca Potter for helping to lead that effort, for putting together our communications and our outreach to the state legislators. So thank you again for all of that. Any other citizen? Yes.
Good evening again. I'm Desiree Nickel, and I have been sworn in. So I want to address kind of the bigger issue about development in the village. I guess a couple weeks ago, council had a working session where you discussed growing Yellow Springs, and I read the agenda, and what it indicated, it was really a discussion between council members and not with villager input. I decided not to come, but I read the article in the Yellow Springs News, and I have a pretty good idea of what you talked about, and I was very supportive and, you know, thought it was really interesting, and there were a lot of good ideas raised in that. In the meantime, because I'm very deeply involved and I'm going to be surrounded by development for the rest of my life, probably, I'm 70 years old, I've been researching density issues and architectural standards and just basically village design concepts. And you probably know it's hard to find information on village design. There's a lot more information out there on urban design. But there is some information on village design. And one thing I ran across recently is something I want to propose. And that is the concept of a village design statement that the community puts together and makes. And so I really just know a little bit about it right now, but I just want to share with you what that is. I have a little handout. It's from England. They have a lot of small villages in England, so I think they're very concerned about it. And it starts saying, many people feel that they have no say over what development takes place in their community, but village design statements offer a constructive solution to the dilemma. So listening to everybody today, everybody had, you know, great ideas on both sides. So I mean, I'm like this, I'm going to be okay with the development. I'll deal with it. But I think that going forward, you got another big thing happening on the other side of town that's going to be coming to council pretty soon, a big potential development over there. And so it's going to be a real issue in the community. So just a couple things, hopefully I won't get zipped out. An effective village design statement is developed, researched, written, and edited by local people. It reflects the representative views of a community. It involves a wide cross-section of residents in its production. It describes the visual character of the village, demonstrates how local character and distinctiveness can be protected and enhanced in new development, is compatible with the statutory planning system and its local application, should be accepted as supplementary planning guidance, just influencing, not dictating, is relevant to all forms and scale of development, and is about managing change in the village, not preventing it. That's something that I think we need to do, and I feel like we need to have a vehicle for community input on this. And so this would be something I would be happy to work on, and I would be happy to contact everybody who testified here tonight and promote it and try to get other people interested in it. But I just really thought that if there was a way for the community to vision development in the village, to feel like we have an input, that we have some input about it. So Gavin, I did appreciate all your comments because I felt listened to, and that was really important, to feel listened to. I did not feel that with Planning Commission, except for maybe a couple questions from Susan. So it is important for us to have input, and I haven't researched it enough, but I think this village design statement concept is a good idea, and I would like to pursue it, and anyone who wants to talk to me about it sometime, I'm happy to do it. I'm retired, I got time. So thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. Appreciate that.
I love that idea.
Yep. All right, anyone else? Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, this gentleman in the rear, I think you had your hand up before. Yeah.
Does the swearing in apply to this?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
We're not in a hearing anymore. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Rick Sanders on East Enon Road again, and I did want to really sort of piggyback on what Desiree said. Really, I agreed with everything she said, but I wanted to specifically just talk about, rather than the noise of the units, the noise of construction. This is just a quick comment. We live a couple hundred yards from Meadow Springs, Spring Meadow, and anyway, the noise, it's very noticeable to us. And the thing is that, I mean, construction will make noise, but I admire their industry. But the Spring Meadows construction people worked pretty much all day the 4th, pretty much all day yesterday, worked until it was almost dark today. I got this secondhand from my wife. But, and sometimes, they have, music to accompany them, which is audible to us. And so anyway, I think the only thing is that there ought to be some limit on when construction takes place, because it's true. Some of us, it will go on for our infinity. It's the rest of our lives. Construction's going to be going on around us, which that's how things are. But there should be some kind of a structure around that. And also, I just wanted to underscore that I really appreciated the meeting. I saw it virtually, the meeting of last week or the week before, where you were thinking through a lot of the things that I was thinking about, and it was very gratifying to hear other people thinking that those same thoughts and having those same concerns. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Now.
Again, Relita Hildebrand Chambers. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the time that you took to talk about strategic planning for the village. I do think it's a really important part of your job and our job as a community to focus on what our vision is for our community. Along those lines, I have in the past really objected to a LIDIC project that was in an area that I consider to be really inappropriate for a high-density building to be. Not to mention that it was, basically taking place of something that is really precious to our community, which is rec soccer. And I also very much support the developments that we just talked about, because I think they are in the right location. And I've had the opportunity to provide transportation for a friend of mine who lives on Corey Street and doesn't have any transportation. And this started about 4 months ago with a little over a 3-hour-a-day commitment on my part to drive her to and from work twice a day, and now is only a little bit of time on the weekends to help her run errands. But in the process of being her friend and interacting with her and facilitating her becoming a successful professional in her job of choice, I really believe that having development in a place that's walkable to the village and to the Green Cat is so, so, so important. And so along the lines of the design, the village design strategic plan, I think that as we think about development, we need to think about those types of things. And in that same vein, I do not support development of the Jones property for the same reason. It's outside of the village. It's going to provide, it's just going to be saturation in an area where people will have cars. I think in the apartments, I'm one of those people that thinks that there will be a lot of people who have bikes and not 2 cars, and will be walking to their jobs. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And thank you very much for all of your work. I'm reminded of Theodore Roosevelt's speech called The Citizen of a Republic. It's also colloquially called The Man in the Arena. And so I appreciate you who are the man in the arena in this discussion, because it is sloppy and not everyone is going to be happy. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other citizen concerns? Going once? Going twice? All right, we're going to close our citizens' concerns. Thank you for everyone participating in those. It looks like we do not have any special reports, but we do have the manager's report.
And I am going to go off script. I'm going to have about 5 or 6 things, and then I'm going to ask for questions on the manager's report, because it's 9:25, almost 9:25. We need to schedule a work session for the CRA, for the tax abatement. So Judy will be sending out some information, try to get some, that way we can have a work session, we can talk about it in an open public forum, and we can get some directions on how we move forward, towards, against, away. We just need some guidance. So a work session, and I'll get with Judy to send out some dates that we can start working on that as a team.
So then will we roll in TIF as well? Because, I mean, we need to pass
Will we do the
legislation for
CRA
both
and TIF at the
potentially,
same
right?
time?
We certainly can.
Yeah.
If
We'll do them
council's
both at the
together
same time.
In discussing it, we can discuss both tools. I mean, should you get to the point of approving either or both, that will happen separately in
Right,
legislation.
Well, we can talk both at the same time.
Okay. I mean, I'll just put out there that I'd like to TIF and CRA the entire village, so, and just.
Well,
you
we'll
know,
talk
go down
about it
with
at the work
I know,
session.
but yeah,
How's that?
but just to be prepared.
I'm trying to get us home, Brian.
Just to be prepared. All right.
Kevin's had 2 hours of nothing to do.
I had plenty of
It was a quick comment.
It was. Short Street, Brian, I appreciate you mentioning that earlier. I want to give a shout out to Stony Creek. They come in and did a fabulous job on the flowers. Gave us a very minimal cost. They donated all the labor, the delivery. Cameron is watering them in the morning. Community Foundation is watering them in the evening if we don't get rain during the day. So again, Philip O'Rourke helped out over the weekend. He helped water them for us because Cameron's out of town. While I'm speaking to Cameron, the banner that we hung for Miami Township Fire and Rescue was designed by Cameron and sent out to Digital Fringe to make it happen. So when you look there, Cameron did a fabulous job at designing that banner. Side note, Ben needs all 5 of you to stay for a photo after council, so don't get up and run away, or we will track you down. Another one, I will be out of town for the next council meeting.
So will I.
You will be, Amy Blankenship will be, Elise will be filling in for me. I will be out in Navajo Nation. I leave a week from Friday. So now,
And speaking of which, do we not have the August meeting? Is that
we do not have an
still a
August,
thing?
it's the second
Yeah.
meeting in August.
Okay.
So the next thing is on the village-owned signs that you see, the downtown that says YS Connect, we are not paying rent on them signs, we own them signs. We have picked up 229 users because of them signs.
Wow.
So they're going to be replaced to 2 different locations to try to get some other people that may go through town at a different route. So if you have any other questions, I'm still here.
I think we have no other questions.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong.
I don't.
Okay, all right. I had some, but I asked them earlier. Great. So okay, so we're now to old business. And those of you who expressed interest in the Village Growth Work Session, Gavin, you are on the agenda for a report out.
I think we were there. Trish, be great. Just, I think if you watched it, you'd get all caught up. We had conversation that was, you saw the agenda. So I don't think we need to rehash it all. The only thing we need to discuss is just, we talked about having a meeting with staff to follow up on the follow-up items and to start thinking about timeline and whatnot. Go ahead.
So Judy and I had a conversation about the files. You said you wanted certain things in a folder. I was thinking SharePoint, but Judy was wondering whether it was your intention, sort of touching on Desiree's point of that being public access, or was that just for internal document storage and sharing?
I was imagining it being public access, but we could talk about all the specifics in the meeting, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, just go through all the to-do items.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sustainable Yellow Springs is a great place to park those things, so, yeah.
Indeed. Okay, good.
So I guess, I think the question is just, I know I would like to be a part of it. I'm also, if I'm voted out of being a part of it, that's fine too. It seemed like other people were interested. Is there anybody who's like a adamant second person that
I know I expressed
set up a
interest,
meeting?
but I can step back.
Me,
What's that?
I'm interested.
Yeah. Sounds like Carmen and I will find a time to meet with you. Yep. I guess, Johnny, do you mind just sending us some times that would work for you? I don't think there's any rush, so just.
I'll have Cameron set that up.
Cool. And then the one other thing I did want to say is that when you brought up the paid parking thing, I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't saying, no, we can never talk. I was just saying in this, and that parking certainly is a notable growth question, but the paid part feels like it was a whole can of worms. So I just wanted to make sure you knew I wasn't saying no, we can never talk
It
about
was
parking.
great. I appreciate it. Yeah.
But also related to that, I mean, there's 6 months, so if you,
We'll do what we can do.
all right, I mean, you know.
We'll do what we can do.
But I've always been a supporter of it, so.
Yeah. So let's do it. And it was very appropriate to put the parking discussion in the parking lot.
That's right.
All right, good. Thank you for that. All right, we are now to future agenda items. I don't know what has come up, if there's anything out of today's meeting.
The only addition I've got is that I'll get in touch with folks about a work session for the CRA and TIF, and that'll go on the agenda as soon as we get that locked in.
Okay.
Otherwise.
All righty. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Anyone else in the public want to say anything else?
That's what I'm doing here.
That's right,
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned by acclamation.